looks like blood in there.
It's not blood, it's deer meat. I had a big bag of, there's a farm around here that does deer meat and hamburgers.
A mother's love should endure all. No matter what happens, we believe they should be programmed to protect their children. They should go to any length to protect them from coming to harm on any level. But sometimes something somewhere along the way goes terribly wrong. The instincts that seem to be innate are just missing. And that love turns to indifference and perhaps even to hate. However, trying to fully understand these mothers may be impossible for an outsider. This is an additional notice for viewer discretion.
Holy we got a body. Alright, let's...
Viewer discretion is advised for this educational documentary. Welcome back to Dark Case Documentaries. I bring you true crime, disturbing stories and other things that you may later regret knowing with regular uploads every week. Please do join the quickly growing, incredibly supportive Dark Case family by hitting subscribe now and turning on notifications. Thank you so much to all of my patrons. If your name is on screen right now, then you're a legend. Our love and respect goes out to all those affected by today's dark case. Eli Hart was born to Yulissa Taylor and Tori Hart in December of 2015. The two young parents didn't stay together for very long, and Eli didn't have the easy, carefree childhood that all children deserve to have. Young Eli had Townes-Brocks syndrome. This is a genetic disorder that is very rare. Less than 5,000 people have Townes-Brocks syndrome in the United States. This syndrome can be spotted by physicians because of some of its unique physical characteristics. These include misshapen thumbs and unusually shaped ears. Townes-Brocks syndrome can lead to several health challenges. These include hearing loss, intellectual disabilities, heart defects, and kidney issues. Not everyone with Townes-Brocks syndrome will display all of these symptoms. And in Eli's case, the condition caused hearing problems. This meant he would have to use hearing aids for the rest of his life. He also had kidney disease, which required medical monitoring. In addition to these medical issues, Eli didn't have the most stable home to live in. At the beginning of his life, Eli's father, Tori, was absent. He had fallen out of contact with Eli shortly after his birth. However, in 2019, Eli and Tori were brought back together. This was when Tori and Yulissa both attended a family wedding. The exes exchanged phone numbers, and as a result of that meeting, Tori began having a relationship with his son once again. Both father and son found joy in the moments that they spent together. Finally, their relationship, their bond, began to grow. Tori would look forward to the next time he would get to see his son. He made it known that he missed Eli when he was with his mother. When Eli was with his dad, his wide, enthusiastic smile showed just how happy he was. Yulissa, however, seemed to be intent on driving a wedge between Eli and Tori as they grew closer. Yulissa made repeated statements about how Tori was a threat to her, even once saying that he had put explosives in her vehicle. However, no proof was ever found to support her stories. There were indications that Eli's mother wasn't properly taking care of him. Yulissa herself struggled with breakdowns in her mental health. Eli was subsequently placed in foster care in January of 2021. This was because of concerns that his mother couldn't adequately care for him. This wasn't the first time that Child Protection Services had heard Yulissa's name. In December of 2015, CPS officials had received its first tip about Yulissa. It was said that she was using illicit substances while she was pregnant with Eli. And then, when Eli wasn't even 2 years old, another report about Yulissa came in. This new report caused even more doubts about whether Yulissa could give Eli the care that he needed. The mother agreed to seek out the help she needed for both herself and for Eli. Therefore, the case was closed at that time by officials. However, as he got older, Eli was removed from Ulyss's care. When he was placed in foster care in January of 2021 with Ulyss's cousin, a man named Stephen Kronberg, and his wife Nikita, he remained in their care for almost a full year. Despite the troubles that he had already seen in his life, Eli was a kind boy. He was now in kindergarten and seemed to have a permanent smile. His infectious smile was adorable, in part because of the missing 2 front teeth he had as a result of losing his baby teeth. Like many young boys, Eli, who lived in Mound, Minnesota, enjoyed playing games of pretend, especially if there was a Matchbox car involved. He someday hoped to have an exciting career as a firefighter. With his outgoing personality and positive attitude, he quickly and easily made friends with other kids of his age. He had a deep love of adventure and exploration. He had a curious mind and a playful nature. During his time in foster care, Eli's father was able to continue to nurture a relationship with him. Eli absolutely loved the time that he spent with his father. This was according to Nikita Kronberg, who was Eli's foster mother. Father Tori, who was now living in Chetek, Wisconsin, had decided to attempt to get custody of Eli. This was instead of having him return to the care of Ulyssa. With his engagement to be married to a woman named Josie Josephson, Tori now felt he could provide a more stable home life and a better care for Eli than Ulyssa could. Eli now began to spend supervised as well as unsupervised time with Ulyssa. Whilst the full-time custody issues were being decided, people that were close to Eli said his temperament and behaviour began to change for the worse. Eli was now getting in trouble for acting out at school. He had started to show aggression towards other children, something he had never done before. In one instance, he had allegedly kicked a classmate in the throat. Another time, while playing, he was accused of pushing another child off of a slide. Statements that Eli made at school also painted a bleak picture of his home life with Ulyssa. Eli had told a teacher at school that his mum sometimes pushed him at home. This supplied another indication that something was severely amiss. A play therapist who was working with Eli reported that Ulyssa became argumentative with her. This caused Eli to run off and seek shelter in a nearby cupboard. Eli's sudden, unusual behaviour led Tori to state his worry, a deep worry that his son might be undergoing emotional or mental maltreatment from his mother. With Eli's behaviour changing so rapidly, it seemed as if there must be a reason for it. Because of this feared maltreatment, Tori was worried about Eli's safety when he returned to live with Ulyssa. And as it turns out, Tori wasn't the only one who feared what might happen to Eli if he were to permanently be returned to his mother. Eli's foster care providers had also expressed their concerns. In March of 2022, Tori sent an email to the social workers handling his son's case. In that email, he wrote about his fears that his son might be undergoing maltreatment from his mother. The email he sent detailed the reasons that he suspected this treatment. He told the social workers that Eli was displaying signs of anxiety, such as difficulty sleeping, using baby talk when he had previously outgrown it, and chewing on the fabric of his shirt. In addition, Eli had started stuttering once again, something he had previously gotten over. All of those issues had only developed once he had been moved back in with his mother. During supervised visits that Eli had with his mother, social services saw some odd behaviour from Ulyssa as well. On one occasion, she threw garbage at a staff member and dug her fingernails into the woman's hand. She would also ignore Eli's requests that she play with him during these visits. Instead, she would simply sit there, staring into the distance. Despite the concerns expressed to them, Eli's mother was given full custody of him once again on May the 10th, 2022. This was a very, very bad decision. In the late hours of May the 19th or the early morning of May the 20th, Eli's life sadly came to an end. Ulyssa aimed a firearm at Eli. She then pulled the trigger 9 times. He was sat in the booster seats of Ulyssa's car. This car was then stopped by Orono police on May the 20th after they responded to calls about someone driving a vehicle with a missing tyre and a broken back windshield. When officers pulled over the vehicle, they made a horrific discovery. They spotted thick red fluid in the vehicle as well as on the mother. This is the real footage of that traffic stop.
There is no tire there. All right. There's what?
Blood all over the car.
Violation. I have a broken windshield and I'm missing a tire because some kids were shooting at my car. I had some.
What looks like blood in there?
It's not blood. It's deer meat. I had a big bag of. There's a farm around here that does deer meat and hamburgers.
Yulissa told police that kids with BB guns had shot out the back window of her vehicle. She explained the blood as having come from a deer. The police officers let her go back to a nearby apartment while they remained by her car. A short while later, police found Eli's body in the trunk of the car with a shotgun next to it.
Got shells all over this.
Yeah. Holy we got a body.
Yeah.
All right, let's cover it.
Yep.
The death had happened mere days after his birth mother had finally regained custody of him. Eli's mother was arrested and charged with murder. However, she repeatedly denied killing her son. After the shooting had occurred, Eli's father lodged a lawsuit against Dakota County Social Services since they sent Eli back to Yulissa even though there were indications her mental health was not stable, as well as information that she was allegedly using illicit substances.
I can't even tell you how many times we expressed our concerns, our fears.
Hart's fiance says he recently filed for custody of Eli. That was a little over a year after court records showed Dakota County took the boy into custody. Documents also show Thaler was hospitalized then and was hearing voices telling her to kill herself.
On May 10th, they returned custody and closed the county case in Dakota County. And 10 days later, we got the news that Eli was found dead.
Other red flags mentioned in the lawsuit as to why she shouldn't have been awarded custody of Eli included how she was trying to sabotage Eli's relationship with his father, and that she didn't even have a stable housing situation. She also hadn't completed a parenting education program. This was simply because she hadn't shown up to enough of the classes. Tori's custody lawsuit will be heard in federal court sometime in 2024.
Now Eli's father is suing Dakota County and 3 workers, claiming that they are responsible for Eli's death by failing to protect him from Julissa Thaler despite countless red flags.
Lou Raguse has been pouring through the complaint filed this afternoon and joins us now with more. Lou?
Randy and Julie, many of those red flags are laid out in heartbreaking detail in this civil complaint, which documents that Dakota County officials knew of these dangers, were warned about them further by Eli's father, Tory Hart, and by Thaler's own father, and that county officials continued with their goal to keep Eli and his mother together. Julissa Thaler, accused of shooting her 6-year-old son Eli Hart multiple times at close range while strapped into a booster seat in her car, was given custody 10 days earlier by a judge at the recommendation of Dakota County Social Services. A wrongful death lawsuit filed by Eli's father, Tory Hart, against Dakota County lays out dozens of disturbing incidents involving Thaler's care that those officials knew about.
But before that happened, Yulissa's criminal charges had to be addressed.
Julissa Thaler, the mother accused of killing her son Eli Hart, has again turned down an offer to plead guilty to second-degree murder. Instead, she will go to trial for first-degree murder. Prosecutors say her...
After being charged with the crime, Yulissa turned down a plea bargain and instead opted for a jury trial. During Yulissa's murder trial, her ex-boyfriend, Robert Pickerainen, provided key testimony about the night that young Eli died. He was able to fill in some of the blanks about just what had happened.
These images from 11:22 p.m. on May 19, 2022 are the last showing 6-year-old Eli Hart alive. In heartbreaking testimony today, Robert Pickerainen filled in gaps for the jury about what happened leading up to those images and what happened when Eli's mother, Julissa Thaler, returned to the apartment the next morning.
Initially, Roberts was also arrested in connection with Eli's death, but his name was fully cleared and he was released without any charges. According to Robert, he and Yulissa were acquaintances in high school, and they subsequently met up again in 2022. They sometimes took illicit substances together. Court records confirmed Yulissa's long history with illicit substances. This included the information that she was just 13 when she began drinking. By age 16, she was allegedly misusing opiates, and she was misusing sedatives by age 20. For these substance issues, she had been hospitalized more than once and had been sent to get treatment. At age 21, medical records show she was on LSD every day. This alleged substance use would remain an issue for her right up until the arrest for Eli's passing. During his court testimony, Robert said on May 19, 2022, which would be the last day of Eli's life, he and Yulissa picked up Eli from school. Eli's last night was spent eating pizza and playing with kittens. However, things took a sinister turn. Yulissa felt that Eli was getting too rowdy. The mother then began striking him, and Eli responded by striking her back. Robert said that following this incident, Yulissa placed her shotgun in the car and then went back to the house. Robert, who was lying in Yulissa's bed at that time, said she then got Eli and went downstairs with him. When Robert woke up the next day, he asked Yulissa where she went the night before. She responded that she had something to do. He noted that Eli wasn't home at the time and he had assumed that the child was simply at school. However, after police discovered Eli's body, they arrested Yulissa along with Robert, although he had no idea what was going on. He also told the court that he had been with Yulissa when she bought the shotgun and went with her when she worked on her shooting skills at a gun range. According to Robert, his partner had mentioned more than once that she wanted the shotgun for her own protection. He said that he never imagined she would use it on her own son. Robert's testimony proved to be very convincing, especially when other evidence backed up his story. The jury also heard from a DNA expert who said that Eli's blood was a match for the DNA in the blood found on Yulissa's hair by police on May the 20th. In addition, the prosecution argued that the crime was premeditated, and they backed up this claim by stating that Yulissa had conducted internet searches based around life insurance policies before the murder occurred.
Said leading up to the murder, Thaler had researched life insurance policies for Eli, searched Google for, quote, how much blood can a 6-year-old lose, and also purchased ammunition that she wanted to, quote, blow the biggest hole into something as proof the slaying was premeditated. Thaler's defense countered that the 28-year-old would not, could not, and did not kill her son, urging the jury to keep an open mind, assume nothing, and withhold judgment until it's time to deliberate.
During the sentencing hearing, both Josie, who was a woman engaged to Tori, and Nikita, Eli's foster mother, spoke about what a delightful boy Eli was. During Yulissa's trial, her attorney Brian Leary alleged that her client wasn't the one who had shot Eli, although she did admit to taking part in her son's demise. However, the jury didn't buy that explanation. They subsequently found her guilty of her son's murder. When the judge gave Yulissa the opportunity to make a few remarks during her sentencing, she simply chose to use an obscenity and insult the judge by calling him garbage, rather than to show any remorse or to admit her guilt.
Ms. Thaler, you have a right to speak this morning if you'd like. You don't have any obligation to speak, but if you'd like to choose to speak, now is the time to do it.
Yes, I would like to say something.
Go ahead.
I'm innocent. You all, you're garbage. That's all, Your Honor.
Ms. Thaler, I don't know that that's appropriate here.
Sorry, I told you what somebody else can.
Bottom line is that you are being sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, Ms. Thaler. I'm not going to close.
Yulissa Thaler was sentenced to life in prison in February of 2023 without the possibility of parole.
Your Honor, everyone knows Eli Hart as the victim of this senseless and horrific crime. But Eli was so much more. Eli was an amazing 6-year-old boy who always woke up full of energy and laughter. He was kind, made friends easily, loved reading books. Eli had a love for animals that was very special. Eli explored, played outside, fished with his dad. Eli was an innocent, loving 6-year-old boy. He did not deserve this. Eli deserved to grow up and have a safe and happy life. We know these things about Eli because he was our little boy, our son, the center of our world. The little boy who would tell me not to be scared of bees, that they were nice and we need them. The little boy that loved being on his dad's shoulders. The little boy who, when we asked him, "Who loves you the most?" would always reply, "You both do." There are no more triple hugs, no more "I love you," no more memories to be made, just emptiness. Eli was a happy 6-year-old boy, our little boy, that we loved so deeply.
Do you think the punishment fits the crime here? What do you think could be done to avoid something like this happening again in the future? Please do let me know down in the comments. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.
I used a gun to shoot both of my grandparents, Richard and Janet Sweet.
I had the earmuffs on and everything. I took a point like this, stepped up one stair so I could see my grandpa's head. Boom, pulled the trigger back, pulled the bolt back, shot my grandpa twice in the head.
There is certainly a body inside, and I noticed a gunshot through the window, and so rather than go in and explore, we're calling you.
Isaiah Richard Sweet's life was marked by difficulties. Born on February the 7th, 1995, his parents Stacy Sweet and Christopher Garley had a tumultuous relationship due mainly to their substance problems. After Isaiah's birth, Stacy had another child with Ronald Kempinski. Eventually though, Isaiah was left in the care of his maternal grandparents, Richard and Janet. At some stage, Isaiah's parents' rights were terminated. This was said to be due to an incident of maltreatment by a neighbour when he was around 4 years old. However, there is uncertainty about the exact event leading to Isaiah living with his grandparents. Throughout his life, the family atmosphere with Richard, Janet and Isaiah was filled with arguments and disagreements. At one point, they moved to Iowa. This was when Isaiah was 7. The plan was to care for Richard's ill mother. His grandparents made the decision to restrict his contact with his mother Stacy, and this continued until she bought him a phone when he was a teenager. When Stacy returned to Iowa in 2010, the arguments began. Isaiah said he wanted to live with her, but Richard and Janet did not let this happen. Stacy eventually gave up and moved back to Pennsylvania in 2012. I should also mention that Isaiah was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder at the age of 4. Attempts were made to seek counselling from Families Inc. in 2011, but this was unsuccessful. Later, Isaiah was recommended for inpatient care due to substance misuse concerns, care which he did receive, followed by outpatient help from the ABB Centre in Manchester. It was at the ABBE Centre where he was diagnosed with ADHD and conduct disorder. The therapist there also highlighted limitations into Isaiah's insight and judgment. They suggested he may be experiencing symptoms of mania, and it was potential that he had bipolar disorder due to impulsive behaviours and risk-prone actions. Isaiah Sweet's interactions with juvenile court services were inconsistent, with referrals in March and December of 2011, and another following an accusation of molestation in April of 2012. In one incident, after a meeting with the JCS, Isaiah leaked from his grandparents' moving vehicle on their way home. He also had a history of multiple times trying to end his own time on this earth, the most recent attempt occurring just before his last arrest. There were also legal conflicts involving Richard with Stacy and his other daughter, Alicia. This was about the distribution of assets from Richard's mother's estate. These disputes resulted in Richard's arrest on a theft charge, which led him to lose his job. According to Stacy, Richard directed his frustrations towards his daughters, and sadly it meant that Isaiah was maltreated to an even higher degree. Apart from a past filled with molestation and violence, Isaiah did have substance issues at this young age. Grandfather Richard was an alcoholic, and it's believed that Isaiah was selling Adderall to Richard. Isaiah began using illicit substances at 14 and was a daily user at the time of his arrest. He admitted to misusing various painkillers and prescription substances, but he denied using meth or injecting substances with needles. He also denied having issues with alcohol or substances altogether, but he did admit to enjoying risky behaviours with friends. This included dangerous stunts like backflipping off of a bridge into shallow water and playing games involving dropping burning cigarettes between friends' arms. He recounted instances of excessive drinking and even recalled a friend burning him 15 times with cigarettes. All of these behaviours are quite extreme, especially for someone of his age. Suspected substance issues led to his commitment by his grandparents in 2011. At 15, Isaiah's alcohol use began to spiral. He dropped out of high school in his junior year with a low GPA of 1.061. Isaiah believed he was smart, but didn't apply himself and put friendships over his academics. He mentioned passing 3 of his GED pre-tests and planned to move to Pennsylvania at 18 to live with his mother and then attend Penn State University. His academic record was marred by multiple suspensions from school. Isaiah had a turbulent and hostile environment at home. He suffered alleged continuous verbal assaults, and he felt mistreated by both grandparents. He mentioned feeling overwhelmed by the stress caused by his grandfather's behaviour. On May the 11th, 2012, Isaiah retrieved a firearm from his grandparents' room. It was loaded with hollow point rounds to minimise their suffering. He put on ear protection to protect his own hearing. He aimed at his grandfather's head from behind and pulled the trigger in a moment of intense hatred. Grandmother Janet yelled, "What's going on?" and Isaiah turned and took her life as well. Isaiah then approached his grandparents, kissed them, expressed remorse, and prayed for forgiveness, recognizing what he had done, wishing he could undo it. Later, he picked up a friend and returned to his grandparents' house. He gathered a sawn-off shotgun, a sharp implement, the firearm used in the murders, along with some belongings and money from his grandparents' wallets. He then stole his grandfather's truck and fled 75 miles to Iowa City. He gave the murder weapon to a friend to dispose of and drove to Cedar Rapids. There he went to parties to numb what he had done, saying he didn't want to think of the murders. He also tried to end his time on this earth every night by trying to suffocate himself, but he repeatedly failed. Isaiah confessed to the murders to multiple people. This included his former girlfriend. The day after the murders, he attended a birthday celebration and then travelled to a party in Iowa City. During his time there, the police caught him for driving with a suspended license. They subsequently impounded the car. As he was taken into police custody, Isaiah falsely told the police that his grandparents were at the Mayo Clinic. He was allowed instead to contact his counsellor, and he was later released to them. Subsequently, Isaiah continued using substances and spent a night in a tent in the woods. On May the 13th, 2 days after the murders, some relatives came to visit Richard and Janet. This was in order to celebrate Mother's Day in America. Janet's daughter was the first one to find them deceased in the living room.
There is currently a body inside, and I noticed a gunshot through the window, and so rather than go in and explore, we're calling you.
The next day, on May the 14th, Isaiah was apprehended after he was spotted at a Hardee's restaurant. At first, he fled, both by car and later on foot, but he was quickly apprehended and arrested. He told the officers that he wished he was the one who was shot. During his interview with the police at the Manchester Police Department, Isaiah admitted to the murders. He recalled being constantly criticised and insulted by Richard. He said it got to the point where Richard was telling him to end his own time on this earth. "I don't know what's wrong with me," he said.
Put those things off you. Probably feel a little bit better.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna be good with me, right?
Yes, sir.
Alright. Grab some of that food, okay, Isaiah? Isaiah, since we haven't officially met, hey, My name's Scott Rieger. Okay, I'm an agent with the Iowa DCI. I am a police officer. I never don't look like it, but I figured this was a little bit more comfortable for me.
So after this, is there any way I can go to the hospital for this? I cut it open on a rusty fence, and I'm pretty sure I'm worried about tetanus.
Yep, nope, absolutely. I'm going to show you this here. This is called a statement of rights and an acknowledgement of the waiver, okay?
Right to remain silent. Anything I say can and will be used against me in a court of law. Right to an attorney if I cannot afford one will be appointed to me.
You've got those things down already,
Yes, sir.
don't you? Okay, let me read these to you. Is that all right?
All right.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. Bow down. When was the last time you had something to eat?
4 days ago.
You haven't eaten anything in 4 days? Right. And we got more food, so if you wallow that stuff down, you want to keep going, we've got more food, we can keep it coming.
Damn, you guys make me feel like I didn't do anything wrong.
Why do you say that?
Well, let's put it like this. I'm not going to be lying to you guys about anything you ask me.
And I appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay.
They're not going to take this from me, are they?
What is it?
This is a real Rolex.
Okay, where'd you get that from?
I found it in a hopeless tent.
Down there?
Yeah, in CR.
Okay, we'll just keep it up there and we'll probably deal with that later.
Cops, there was like 4 or 5 cops in
Cambridge?
Yep. Looking for me.
Okay.
And one of them came up to me, started talking to me, asked if I knew where I was. And I was like, no.
So he didn't recognize you
Yeah,
at
I was
all?
like, no, I don't even know where he's at. Like, I had my hair back to here. At first, he was asking if I saw the other cops. And I was like, nope. And he was like, do you know who Isaiah Sweet is? And I was like, no idea.
Not a clue who that is. What are you thinking the whole time he's asking that?
I'm thinking, how fast am I going to run? As soon as he walks away from me.
What I want you to do right now is just kind of relax, go ahead and eat that food, kind of mound down. Like I said, I want to kind of start and kind of walk back through some things first.
All right.
Okay?
More than anything, I want to know what the brought me to what I did, what's wrong with me.
Sure. Then, you know...
Like, I'm about to start bawling.
Okay. Hey, Isaiah, if you cry, that's totally fine, man. I respect that, okay?
I want to go back so bad.
How come?
Because I loved them so much, and they didn't deserve that. If anyone in that house deserved it, I did.
When you say what happened that night at the house, what happened?
Shot both of them.
Okay. What'd you shoot him with, Isaiah?
An assault rifle.
An assault rifle? You remember what it looks like?
It's black.
Okay. What,
Black, bolt action, 10 or more round clip. It's, Czechoslovakian.
Okay.
AR-15.
Okay. Okay. It takes a lot to admit that, Isaiah. Okay. That's not an easy thing to do. Okay, and Isaiah, this is...
I'm not gonna play dumb with you.
Okay, and I appreciate that. How you feeling right? I mean, you're with me right now,
feel
right?
Like I don't really know, like, much, but...
Okay, well, let me ask you this, Isaiah. You understand who I am.
Yes, sir.
You understand I'm a police officer.
Yes, sir.
You understand that the guys who brought you up here, why they had
Yes,
to find
sir.
you, okay, and they brought you up there. There's nothing medically right now that's preventing you to talk to me.
No, sir.
Right? But you understand the questions I'm asking you right now? Okay, there's no question that you're not smart enough to handle these
I'm
questions.
extremely intelligent.
Okay. And you know what? I get that. I think you are.
I just make stupid choices.
Yeah. And sometimes we do, Isaiah. Look at me.
I'm never going to be able to go back on it.
No. And that's, you know what, Isaiah, part of this is that what you're doing today by telling me the whole truth as far as what happened, not only what's leading up to it, but what happened during it. I know it's going to be tough to walk through, but we need to do that, okay? And then we need to talk about what happened afterwards, okay?
I sat at home on house arrest all day.
Okay. Were Grandpa and Grandma home?
And then I went down to the basement. There's a door that goes into the garage from the basement. I went up to the garage and then in their room, took the assault rifle out of their room. And then I loaded it with 10 bullets, walked up the stairs, took like a point like this, had earmuffs on and everything. I took a point like this, stepped up one stair so I could see my grandpa's head. Boom, pulled the trigger back, pulled the bolt back, shot my grandpa twice in the head.
Where was your grandpa sitting?
They were both sitting on the couch.
Okay. And where were you at?
I was on the stairs coming up, like
coming up from that landing? Okay, because I've heard, I haven't been inside your house, but you know, some of the guys were up there the other day and they were kind of going through it.
hollow point assault rifle rounds. And then I went up to him and I just broke down, started crying, and I told him how much I loved him.
He was later charged with murder and held on a $1 million bond.
The couple was found shot dead in their home in Manchester in May of 2012. Sweet was later arrested in Cedar Rapids. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts first-degree murder.
In October of 2013, Isaiah Sweet's case went to trial for 2 counts of first-degree murder. However, during the trial, he reached a plea agreement with the state. He decided to plead guilty to the 2 counts of first-degree murder. The agreement included a recommendation from the state for concurrent sentences. The sentencing hearing was scheduled based on his age and the existing laws. Upon taking the plea agreement, the court conducted an inquiry with Isaiah to ensure the truthfulness of the testimony witnesses would provide based on the stated facts. The district court accepted the guilty plea and ordered a pre-sentence investigation report. During the sentencing hearing in February of 2014, the state presented testimony from John McInerney, a juvenile court officer. The officer provided information gathered from about 10 meetings with Isaiah, meetings that started in December of 2011 after Sweet faced charges for possession of illicit substance paraphernalia. He detailed Sweet's family life, the counselling sought for his behaviour and his mental health issues, and he highlighted his long juvenile record. During the trial of Isaiah R. Sweet, the most contentious witness on the first day of testimony was Brandon Ehlers. Defense attorneys attempted to portray Brandon as someone testifying only to reduce the criminal charges that he faced. He testified that on May the 11th, 2012, Sweet texted him asking about different methods of murdering people, discussing poisoning with substances like cyanide, arsenic and nicotine, as well as asking about loading an AR-15 rifle. Brandon Ehlers said that shortly after midnight on May the 12th, Sweet arrived at his place with 2 firearms and a TV, confessing, "I did it. It's done." The next morning, Sweet allegedly told him he could take anything he wanted from his grandparents' house. Brandon admitted breaking in but left immediately upon discovering the bodies. He said that he was too scared to call the police. Ehlers, who was sentenced to 18 years in prison in September on various charges related to the killings and subsequent thefts, had 2 charges of first-degree murder dropped as part of a plea agreement. A condition of this agreement was his testimony against Isaiah. Following this, Sweet's defense presented the testimony of Dr. Stephen Hart. He is an expert in clinical psychology, specializing in violence assessment and psychopathic personality disorder. Dr. Hart reviewed documentation regarding Isaiah. As well as that, he conducted an interview with him before preparing his report. He concluded that Sweet suffered from severe developmental problems, from mental health issues, challenges in personal relationships, and struggles with educational adjustment. Dr. Hart indicated that Isaiah's decision-making was affected by attention disturbances and impulsivity, attributing these issues at least in part to severe attention deficit disorder. He also emphasized that Sweet's psychological and social immaturity, estimating his psychological and social maturation to be more in line with a 12, 13 or 14-year-old despite being chronologically 17. He highlighted that although Sweet's actions seemed planned, they were not executed with the precision of a seasoned criminal, characterizing them as a poorly executed plan, rather than the work of a well-prepared offender. Dr. Hart concluded his testimony by stating, Isaiah Sweet's prospects for rehabilitation were uncertain and mixed. He suggested there was a possibility of partial or full remission of his symptoms, but couldn't determine definitively whether Sweet might develop a full psychopathic personality disorder in adulthood. Even if he did, the treatability of such a disorder couldn't be predicted. He emphasized that a determination about Sweet's potential for rehabilitation might not be feasible until he reached the age of 30 due to his youth. Isaiah Sweet took the stand last. He expressed remorse, and he discussed the troubled relationship he had with his grandparents. He said that this led to significant trust issues. He appealed to the court to consider his youth and expressed his desire for rehabilitation when determining his sentence. The district court delivered its sentencing on March the 11th. Despite Sweet's age at the time of the murder, which was 17 years and 3 months, and the debatable levels of his maturity, the court also expressed skepticism regarding Dr. Hart's somewhat optimistic view of Sweet's potential for rehabilitation, emphasizing the severity of this case. Isaiah Sweet's case was exceptionally rare. They believed this justified a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. The decision stemmed from the exceptionally horrific nature of the murders, a crime which reflected a profound lack of humanity. The court's conclusion was that Sweet was, and would remain, a significant threat to society. Balancing the interests of justice and community safety, the court deemed that these concerns outweighed any mitigating factors. Sweet, however, appealed his sentence to the Iowa Supreme Court. In May, the court prohibited life sentences without the possibility of parole for juveniles convicted of first-degree murder. As a result, Sweet was re-sentenced later that year to life in prison with the possibility of parole. He is currently being held at the Iowa State Penitentiary in Fort Madison. Recently, a 3-member panel of the Iowa Board of Parole reviewed Sweet's case. Despite recognizing his efforts during his 4 years in prison, such as earning a career readiness certificate and participating in rehabilitation programs, the board aligned with the Department of Corrections and recommended against his release. They determined that Sweet would require more time to exhibit the necessary changes before considering parole. This decision aligns with the 2016 ruling by the Iowa Supreme Court, a decision which deemed life sentences without parole for juvenile offenders as cruel and unusual punishments. It was rooted in the understanding, supported by neuroscientists, that teenage brains are not fully developed, making youths more susceptible to peer influence and to impulsive behavior. The case's significance extends beyond Isaiah Sweet's situation. It reflects a broader trend of recent court decisions at state and federal levels. Decisions are to stop the imposition of mandatory punishments for juvenile offenders. The Iowa Supreme Court in particular has been instrumental in these rulings, banning mandatory minimum sentences for all juvenile offenders in 2014, and more recently striking down unconstitutional provisions in laws related to sentencing juvenile offenders to life in prison without parole. Should immerse you into a world of safety, a place where you can be yourself, somewhere you will be encouraged to be the best version of yourself, giving the same to your partner too. However, some people simply don't know what love is. They are incapable of anything beautiful. Instead, whether through nature or nurture, they use love to control and even to kill. Holly Gazzard was a 20-year-old woman with a spirit as fiery as her vibrant red hair. Growing up in Gloucester, UK, Holly was described by her friends and family as energetic, as vivacious, easy to like, and having a zest for life that left a lasting impression on every person that she encountered. She was born prematurely, tipping the scales at just over 5 pounds. Holly was a gift to her mother Mandy, father Nick, and her sister Chloe. She was so small when she was born that her father had to purchase doll's clothes. This was until she could fit into the newborn sizing. Holly's mother described her as vibrant, lively, caring, loyal, saying that she was simply lovely to be around as she grew up. To her, Holly wasn't just a daughter. She was a best friend who had an impact on her that was unforgettable. Whether you met her or merely caught a glimpse of her, Holly's infectious energy, beaming smile and positive influence were impossible to ignore. She lived every day by her favourite quote: "Have hope, be strong, laugh loud and play hard. Live in the moment, smile often, dream big. Remember you are loved, and never, never give up." A determined and successful individual, Holly served as an inspiration to others, cherished by her family, friends and colleagues. While she shared her father's passion for Manchester United and English football team, Holly's true passion lay in the world of hairdressing. In November of 2012, she secured a place at the Steiner Training Academy in London, and there she was set to begin in March of 2013. Before starting this new chapter, Holly accepted a job at Zest Bar. Her outgoing and bubbly personality made her a perfect fit. Gloucester is an historic city nestled in the scenic southwest of England. It's located on the River Severn and it's known for its architecture. Gloucester does have stunning cathedrals along with quaint streets. The city's charm and character provide a blend of historic and modern elements to make it a notable destination. Community spirit is often strong in Gloucester. Friendly locals contribute to a welcoming atmosphere of events, festivals and activities throughout the year. Holly's family thrived in Gloucester, but Holly wanted more. Holly knew that London would offer her more as she was working towards her career as a hairdresser. The industry was simply booming in London. It was just as Holly was nearing the end of her time at Zest Bar when she met Asher Maslin. Asher was instantly captivated by Holly, persistently pursuing her until she agreed to go on a date with him. The love story unfolded rapidly, with Holly visibly happy in her newfound romance. After just a few weeks, Holly introduced her boyfriend to her family. To her mother Mandy's surprise, she recognised him from her work as a dinner lady. Holly's father Nick acknowledged that Asher had a bit of a reputation as a bad boy, but he emphasised his belief in second chances. Described as a Jack the Lad with a confident and talkative demeanour, Holly's boyfriend gained the approval of her parents and they continued on with their relationship. It was soon after their romance began that Holly started her dream job as a hairdresser on a cruise ship. This meant that she left her new boyfriend behind. However, only a week into the cruise, Holly reached out to her dad. She was expressing a strong desire to come home because she had been dealing with extreme seasickness. Her father was confused about her decision to abandon her dream job, and he later came to believe that her new boyfriend was bombarding her with persistent text messages, along with calls and FaceTime interactions, all where he influenced her to cut her cruise experience short. Upon Holly's early return home, Asher's possessiveness intensified. He started showing up uninvited on Holly's nights out with her friends and began trailing her from club to club. Holly's friend Kaylee became concerned as she witnessed the fact that Asher tried to control Holly's every move. He would resist her social outings and demanded that she stay at home. The increasing intrusion into her personal life became a concerning pattern. This signaled the emergence of a possessive and controlling dynamic in their relationship. Despite Holly securing a job in London within a couple of months of her return home from the cruise ship, Asher proposed the idea of moving in with his cousin in the capital. Holly hesitantly agreed. She thought that perhaps the presence of a roommate would cause Asher to behave more respectfully towards her. However, even with the change of location, Asher's controlling behaviour persisted and even got worse. During a planned lunch outing with Holly's family, Asher interrupted with a phone call. He instructed her not to let her family take her away from him. Upon their return to Gloucester for Holly's mother's birthday meal, Asher's true nature began to surface in front of Holly's family. In a drunken state, he showed abusive behaviour towards Holly. He humiliated her in front of everyone and treated her disrespectfully. Holly's father said he spoke to her like a piece of dirt. Asher's demanding and disrespectful conduct revealed a troubling dynamic. It showcased a lack of regard for Holly's well-being or her dignity. Holly's family became increasingly worried about their relationship, but there was little they could do to convince her to leave him. The breaking point came in August of 2013 at the Notting Hill Carnival. While at the carnival with Asher's family, the couple became separated. Upon finally finding Holly, who had taken his nephew to the restroom, Asher's anger escalated beyond control, leading him to push Holly to the ground. Following this incident, Holly decided to move back in with her family. This was all in order to escape Asher and their toxic relationship. After leaving Asher and moving back in with her parents, Holly was able to secure yet another job at Fringe Benefits along with LaBelle Hair and Beauty in the city. Her creative talents and vibrant personality earned her a ton of popularity among her colleagues and her clients. She now truly began to thrive in her passions. Holly also took on a part-time role behind the bar at the King Teddy in Long Levens, Gloucester. This was the bar where her sister Chloe already worked. Despite Holly's efforts to move on from Asher's wrath, Asher returned to the area and successfully persuaded her to take him back. The possessive behaviour almost immediately resumed. Asher would call and text Holly almost non-stop. This was to the point where she even had to resort to shutting off her phone to escape his fixation with her. As their relationship continued, Asher's behaviour towards Holly became physically violent. There were numerous and regular incidents where he grabbed her around the neck. He would also strike her with his hands and feet as well as push her. By the time Christmas arrived, Holly had been pushed to the point where she wanted to end the relationship for a second time. However, when she attempted to discuss it with him, he refused to accept the fact that Holly wanted out of the relationship. Holly's unhappiness became obvious to everyone around her. It caused a noticeable change in her demeanour towards her friends and her family. She wanted to keep things to herself to avoid worrying the people in her life that loved her. Eventually, things got so bad between Holly and Asher that Holly knew she needed to end the relationship before matters became even worse. However, despite Holly's attempts to end the relationship amicably, Asher still would not accept it. On Valentine's Day of 2014, Holly decided to break up with Asher in a restaurant. She chose a public space for her own personal safety. However, Asher still reacted with extreme anger. He accused her of having a cold heart, screaming at her there and then. When Holly tried to leave, Asher followed her to her car. There he stole her bank card and cleared her bank account of £300. After the separation, Asher's behaviour took an even more threatening turn. He sent Holly text messages saying violent things, describing how he was going to smash her house up, and threatening to harm her and her family if she didn't call him back. Following these threats, Holly called the police on February the 15th to provide a statement. She revealed details about her fears and the fact that Asher had stolen money from her. In her statement, she detailed the threats that Asher had made over multiple occasions. These included threats of throwing acid on her face, of ruining her career, of beating her up and causing her to lose her looks, and to have his family attack her if she ever broke up with him. Holly had not previously shared these details with her family. They now realised the true horror that she had been enduring. Holly's father thought back on all the times that Asher's behaviour had worsened as the relationship progressed. It got to the point where he had asked Asher not to come to the house anymore. However, he didn't realise that things could get quite this serious. Upon her phone call, the police were aware of a previous incident that was captured on CCTV. This was an incident where Asher had put his hands around Holly's neck. They also had information about domestic maltreatment involving one of his previous partners. But the officer that took Holly's call failed to record many of the details that she provided in her statement. The officer who took the call lacked any kind of domestic maltreatment training. They simply did not know how to approach the issues of stalking and harassment. Nevertheless, Holly visited the police station on both February the 15th and the 16th. There she spoke to two officers about what she had been enduring. Following these conversations, the officers made attempts to locate Asher and to arrest him. However, they failed to locate him. The safety plan for Holly relied on locating and arresting Asher to keep him away from her. But when they failed to find him, Holly was left to protect herself. On February the 18th, just 2 days after Holly's last visit to the police station, Asher somehow found out about her correspondence with the police. In response, Asher took his DVD player to a pawn shop. There he sold it for just £5, and then he used that money to purchase a sharp implement. While Asher was doing this, Holly was telling one of her customers, Elma Rogers, how she was scared to leave her house apart from going to work. Asher's threatening behaviour escalated as he bombarded Holly with abusive text messages. This included a disturbing message indicating his intentions to seriously harm her. He then sent an ominous text to her sister's partner, issuing a warning for what he was about to do. Shortly after, Asher walked into the salon where Holly worked. Expecting Asher might arrive that day, it was just before 6 p.m. when Holly had discussed with her boss at the salon what was going on between her and her ex-boyfriend. The two had prepared to call the police in case he showed up, and about 30 minutes later, Asher walked in. He immediately targeted Holly, striking her in the face. As a customer named Mark attempted to intervene, Holly's boss dialed 999. Despite these efforts, Asher ignored everyone's attempts to stop him, and instead he began viciously attacking Holly with the sharp implement that he had just bought. The horrifying attack lasted just over 1 minute, during which time Asher struck Holly with the implement 14 times. Colleagues and customers in the salon tried to help, but Asher warned them off. After this frenzied attack, he left the salon and went home. There he changed the clothes that were now stained with the aftermath of what he had done. Holly was rushed to the hospital. However, sadly, she was already gone by the time she arrived.
When she finally tried to break it off, Maslin stabbed her 14 times in the salon where she worked. The warning signs of endless control and mind games had all been there. A damning report into the police handling of the case was a wake-up call. Now, a change in the law allows the police to act against psychological abuse before it turns violent.
Everyone was horrified by the events of what had happened, haunted by what they had just witnessed. All of Asher's actions had been captured on Gloucester's CCTV network. This allowed the police to quickly track him down and finally make an arrest like they had tried to do multiple times over the past couple of days.
Good evening. Hundreds of people gathered at Gloucester Cathedral today to say a final goodbye to Holly Gazzard, the 20-year-old hairdresser who died after being stabbed at work.
Speaking at the service, her grandfather said she lit up the lives of everyone she came into contact with. She made everyone smile. Our Gloucestershire correspondent Ken Goodwin reports.
Hundreds of people turned up to Gloucester Cathedral to say goodbye to Holly Gazzard. Her mother, father, sister and grandparents escorted her coffin into the building. Holly's grandfather, David Jenkins, described her as a beautiful young woman who lit up the lives of everyone she met. He read out a verse from Holly's sister Chloe, which said she wished that she could climb up to heaven and bring Holly back down with her. What it meant to lose you, no one will ever know. Afterwards, as Holly's family attended a private cremation service, those who knew her said she was a very special person.
Bright shining star, beautiful, beautiful girl, lit up a room when she went in, and she had a tiny girl, massive personality.
She was just wonderful. She just lit up everything. She was just fantastic.
We are quite a close-knit community, and I think what Sally said there, we are all very struck, and it's hit so hard.
With all of the evidence against him, police were able to use the CCTV footage to piece together exactly what had happened. This also allowed them to recover the weapon that Asher had used in the attack. The arrest came quickly, as did Asher's trial. During the court proceedings, Asher pled guilty to the crimes he committed against Holly. Holly's family read victim impact statements. These included the horror they had endured as they learned of their daughter's passing at the hands of a man who had also threatened their lives. The judge characterised Holly's attack as a merciless ending to a beautiful life. They handed down a life sentence to Asher Maslin, with a minimum term of 24 years to be served. Asher demonstrated no remorse throughout the proceedings.
I still can't believe it. I thought that I made progress, but obviously it didn't do nothing because hours later then this thing happened.
She's on foot somewhere in the area.
How did what feel?
When you did what you did, how did it feel?
I didn't kill anybody. That was disgusting.
Did it feel good?
That's disgusting. You guys really think I'm a murderer?
Isabella Guzman was born in Aurora, Colorado in June of 1995 to her parents Yunmi Hoy and Robert Guzman. When she was 4 years old, however, her parents got a divorce. Her mother would go on to marry a man named Ryan. As a child, Isabella struggled with some behavioral issues. Because of this, her mother sent her to live with her father when she was 7 years old. She moved back in with her mother and stepfather when she was a teenager. However, she would continue to struggle with these same behavioral issues. She then began getting into fistfights at school, her life seemingly spiraling downwards, before dropping out of high school during her senior year. In August of 2013, when Isabella was 18 years old, her relationship with her mother began to decline. At this point, Isabella became more threatening towards Yunmi. Isabella's stepfather claimed that her mother was extremely scared of her, and that she was exhausted trying to deal with Isabella's behavior. On August 27, 2013, Isabella and her mother got into one of their most heated arguments to date. This ended in Isabella spitting in her mother's face. The following day, Yunmi was at work when she received an email from Isabella. Although it was only a short message, it was a powerful and dangerous one. It read, "You will pay." This email made Isabella's mother feel so uneasy that she actually decided to call the police. The police visited the house and spoke with Isabella. They let her know that she was now an adult, saying that her mother could kick her out of the house at any point, and to avoid this, she had to drastically alter her behaviour. Isabella did seem to be more calm after the police spoke to her, but Yunmi still felt uneasy about the situation. So she called Robert, Isabella's biological father, and asked him to come over and talk to Isabella as well. Robert and Isabella had a long conversation. He said that it seemed like Isabella had calmed down, and he believed that she understood exactly what he was telling her. He said that he felt like he had gotten through to her, and that she now wouldn't cause any more major problems like this one. The following day, August 28, 2013, Isabella's mother arrived home from work at around 9 p.m. She greeted her husband Ryan before heading upstairs to take a shower. This was her usual routine after work. Not long after Yunmi went upstairs, Ryan began hearing some strange noises. He heard some thuds and bangs coming from upstairs. These were followed by a scream. He rushed up to check on Yunmi, thinking she may have slipped in the shower, but that's not what he found. He noticed that Isabella was in the bathroom with her mother, but before he could enter, Isabella slammed the door shut and locked it. Ryan was pleading for Isabella to let him in. He was trying everything he could to get the door open, but Isabella was on the other side. She was pushing back against the door so that he couldn't get in. That's when Ryan noticed a pool of thick red fluid seeping out from under the bathroom door. At this point, Ryan ran downstairs to get his phone and call 911. After Ryan called 911, he ran back upstairs to the bathroom. He heard his wife say one final word, Jehovah. That was before Isabella opened the door to exit the bathroom. She was holding a sharp implement that was dripping with red vital fluids. Isabella walked right past her stepfather and looked straight ahead without saying a word. Ryan now rushed to his wife's side. She was laying on the bathroom floor, unclothed and covered in red fluid. There was a baseball bat in a similar state laying beside her. Ryan tried to perform CPR, but it was unsuccessful because of the terrible condition that Yunmi was in. Emergency services arrived just 11 minutes later. They discovered that Isabella had used a sharp kitchen implement to inflict injuries on her own mother approximately 79 times. Ryan told the police that it was Isabella who had committed the crime, but that she had then fled the scene and was now nowhere to be found.
District 1 is looking for Isabella Guzman. Looks like cut her mother's throat.
She's on foot somewhere in the area.
The female is going to be armed with a knife. She's an 18-year-old female. It says mixed race. I think it might be with Asian. She's wearing a pink tank top, shorts, one shoe.
Police began searching for Isabella, but the search didn't last long. Police got a call from someone who reported a body in a car. This was said to be situated in a parking garage less than a mile from Isabella's home. When police arrived, they found the car, but no body, though they did find other items that were related to Yumi's murder in the car. Other officers found Isabella trying to leave the parking lot on foot. She was wearing the same red-soaked clothes that she wore during the attack. They arrested her in the spot, and she did not put up a fight.
You left her to die, brutally, on a bathroom
I did
floor.
not murder anyone. Please stop
feel?
accusing me of this.
Just tell me how that feels.
Please fingerprint me, please fingerprint me, please fingerprint me. I will show you that I am not this freaky, horrible person. So she's 110 pounds? That's really skinny. I'm 148 pounds.
Isabella, please.
Don't call me Isabella. That's really
That's your name.
My name is not Isabella. My name is Samantha. There are people in this world who look alike, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are not, like, all-knowing. You don't know everything. You're just accusing me of all this stuff that I didn't do.
We know what you we know what you did, and we know who you are. We know how it happened.
Apparently not,
when it
because
happened.
you guys are completely wrong. You got the wrong girl.
No, we don't. We don't have the wrong girl, and you know that.
No, I don't.
How did it feel?
How did what feel?
When you did what you did, how did it feel?
I
Make you
didn't
feel
kill
good?
anybody. That's disgusting.
Did it feel good?
That's disgusting. You guys really think I'm a murderer?
Yeah, we're not joking.
Did it make you feel powerful?
I'm not this girl. I don't know what happened with her and her life and who she is or what school she went to. That's not my problem. My problem right now is finding my boyfriend.
It's a funny game you're playing, but nobody's laughing. You think some juror sitting on a jury is going to believe that you're not the person we suspect killed their mother? When you're caught right down the street with knife injuries to your hand?
Scissors.
It's not scissor injuries.
I told you there were scissors.
It's not scissor injuries.
Yes, it was. You're not going to bully me into admitting what you want me to, like, pretend
No,
to be.
I suspect we're probably not. I mean, that's a decision you have to make in your own head. I mean, that's the bottom line. You're 18 years of age. You understand why you're here. You know what you've done. We've given you an opportunity to talk about what you've done. We've given you an opportunity to give us a reason why you did what you did. And you've continued on this crazy-ass story that this you have nothing to do with this, and that story is not believable. We don't
It doesn't
believe it.
have to be believable. It will be proven.
So-
I am not this Isabella girl. All this crazy fucking shit keeps happening, and I am not this girl.
Crazy fucking shit, that's a good way to put it.
How would you feel if this was done to you?
I'd be scared if I were you.
I'm not really scared. I'm just a little freaked out.
So you're
seeing
not
all this
scared by
happening.
this?
No, because the DNA will not match.
Do you have no remorse for what you did?
I did not do anything wrong.
So you don't, do you?
I am not
You can
Isabella.
just sit there and continue to deny this with a clear conscience.
I am not Isabella.
Really? You can just sit here and completely deny all of this?
I'm not denying anything. I am being truthful.
That's you.
No, it is not.
There's no question. That's you.
She's pretty.
Yeah, you're a pretty girl. That's you.
But that's not me.
Yeah, that's up your Facebook account.
Isabella had her arraignment hearing on September the 5th. She had to be dragged out of her cell for this hearing. Once she got to the courtroom, she began looking straight at the camera and making strange faces such as smirking, sarcastic smiles, and pointing at her eyes. Isabella and her legal team decided to plead not guilty by reason of insanity. A mental health professional would testify on her behalf, claiming that Isabella was suffering from schizophrenia and that she had been experiencing delusions for years, delusions that worsened during the month before this attack. According to Isabella, she didn't even realize she was attacking her own mother. She thought instead she was attacking a woman named Cecilia in order to save the world. The judge accepted Isabella's plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. Isabella was then sent to the Colorado Mental Health Institute. While she was in the psychiatric facility, the courtroom footage of Isabella making faces at the camera went viral on TikTok. Thousands of users posted videos of themselves recreating her facial expressions and her mannerisms. Many of them also felt sympathy for Isabella, saying that she was so beautiful and that she didn't deserve to go to prison. In November of 2020, Isabella filed a motion to the court to be released. She claimed that she was no longer a danger to herself or to others. In this petition, Isabella claimed that she was maltreated by her family for many, many years. However, she said that if she could go back and change what had happened, she would.
I was abused at home by my family for many years. My parents are Jehovah's Witnesses. And, I left the religion when I was 14, and the abuse at home worsened after I quit. The fight with my mom was terrible, and I was injured in the process. I have the scars on my hands. I don't know if you can see or not. I'm not mentally ill anymore. I'm not a danger to myself or others. If I could change it, or if I could take it back, I would.
Her request was denied, and to this day, Isabella remains in the Colorado Mental Health Institute. This case is so crazy, it's almost unbelievable. I have brought you over 130 cases on this channel so far, so I am kind of hard to shock. But this one shocked me. You have been warned. Peter Bryan was born in London in 1969 to two immigrant parents from Barbados. They moved over to England in the 1950s. They were simply looking for a better life for their children. Peter was the youngest of 7 siblings. Their parents worked every single day of the week. That meant that Peter and his other siblings were tended to by minders. Peter's mother was especially absent. She spent large stretches of his childhood in Barbados with her older children who had not crossed over during the move. Because he didn't get the direct attention and care that he required, Peter grew up living largely unchecked. At Shaftesbury Junior School in Forest Gate, he developed an appetite for bullying boys who were physically smaller than him. He would take their lunch money, call them names, and generally demean them. There's a record of him making children his age tie his shoelaces. Peter struck wherever he saw weakness, and this was only exacerbated when he became a teenager. He joined a street gang at a young age and started smoking illicit substances at age 12. Experts think that the early substance use severely hampered his mental development. This could have been a contributing factor to his later psychosis. There's also a record of mental illness in the family, so there could be a genetic component to it as well. Peter's attitude grew worse when he entered Trinity Secondary School in Canning Town. Teachers reported that he seemed to get a sadistic kick out of dominating people and crushing their spirits. He also robbed people, touched girls inappropriately, heckled people, and even slapped a female teacher. Peter only got a suspension for that transgression. He managed to remain in high school until he was 15 years old, and that was when he dropped out, something that wasn't unusual at the time. It was a combination of being dyslexic and requiring a tutor to learn, a general disdain for the school and its people, and his desire to live by his own rules. From this point, things would take a radical and tragic turn for Peter, as well as those unfortunate enough to catch his eye. In 1987, at 18 years old, Peter Bryan had his first run-in with the police. He lived at the Flying Angel Custom House in East London, and he worked at a clothes stall on a market. The police received a call when he attempted to throw another resident off of the 6th floor window. According to the victim, the attack was entirely unprovoked. This hinted that Bryan was perhaps suffering from some type of psychotic episode. His actions weren't based in our reality. Ultimately, the police took no action against Bryan, and perhaps if they had, they would have stopped what came next. Although you've probably never heard of this man before, Peter Bryan goes on to become one of the most terrifying criminals of the 21st century. But for his monstrous pedigree, he grew up in a fairly ordinary place. East London in the 1970s and 80s was wildly different from what it is today. But the highlights of the city have remained the same throughout the generations. It is the capital and largest city of England and the United Kingdom. It houses a diverse population of 8 million people. At its centre is the Houses of Parliament, Big Ben and Westminster Abbey. Nisha Sheth was a 20-year-old college student. They were the oldest child of the Sheth family. She had a 12-year-old smart-mouthed brother and worked for her parents to support herself while she attended university. The Sheths were an affluent Indian family. They owned multiple fashionable Kings Road boutiques scattered throughout London. After a brief stint at the clothes store and then teaching cooking classes in a soup shelter, Brian landed one of the best jobs of his adult life. He worked as a shop assistant to Nisha. Nisha always found Brian more than a little bit strange and frankly intimidating at times. He was a large, heavy-set man, and he made a habit of invading her space. He would touch her inappropriately and then go on long protracted speeches. He would mutter about things that nobody else understood. The first few months of working with Peter were decent enough, but over time his personal hygiene, personality and mind seemed to deteriorate. He would change his appearance and hairstyles frequently, fully bearded on one day, clean shaven the next. It was also an open secret that Brian was a local delinquent. He bragged about how he had mugged girls like Nisha, how he had extorted people, and how he had sold illicit substances. Brian did whatever he could to supplement his income from the shops, income which he often blew through by buying illicit substances. Nisha was not the only person who saw the sort of danger Peter presented. Her mother saw it too. Mrs. Sheth noticed Peter was erratic and, at some point, started walking around with a claw hammer which he'd stolen from their tool shed. On one occasion, he even told her that he wanted to kill somebody, but given his eccentricities, she didn't know what to believe. Towards the end of his stay with the Sheths, he even struck her on the shin with his belt. When Mrs. Sheth reported Peter's behaviour to her husband, he simply did not believe her. Peter treated him with respect and fairly whenever he saw him, and this meant that he grew to like him. Although he often disappeared from work for days to weeks at a time, Mr. Sheth was still willing to give him another chance. That choice would soon come to cost him everything. Brian's infatuation with Nisha Sheth was no mystery. He'd made his intentions obvious, and on one occasion he brought Nisha a nail box with flowers inside. When Nisha's brother noticed the sticker on the side and asked him where he'd stolen them from, Peter swallowed the sticker to hide the evidence and laughed off the entire interaction. Shortly after this, Nisha reported Brian for stealing clothes from their shop. She'd caught him in the act one day and told her father about it immediately. Peter felt betrayed and showed up at the store 1 week later. It was now March the 18th, 1993. He had a claw hammer in his hand. He went after Nisha's 12-year-old brother, knocking him to the side. He then assaulted Nisha, who was on the phone at the time. The police report said that he hit her so hard that the white of her brain was visible. Nisha's brother watched it all happen. Brian then fled the scene of the crime when he realised what he'd done. A random bystander noticed something was wrong and chased after him. Brian managed to lose them before climbing onto the roof of a building. He was high on illicit substances and trying to throw himself off. Fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately, his survival instinct kicked in. He grabbed hold of one of the ledges of the building as he climbed down. Eventually though, his grip failed him. He then plummeted several floors, shattering both of his ankles. Brian claimed diminished responsibility. He was sentenced to Rampton Secure Hospital indefinitely after he admitted to the murder of Nisha. This was much to the protest of the Sheth family. They wanted a stricter sentence for Brian, but psychologists determined that he was mentally ill. He said he was convinced that Nisha was teasing him, and she had demanded that he kill her. In 1994, Brian was sent to Rampton Secure Hospital. There, he did make considerable progress according to the nursing staff, but he did still have occasional hiccups. There, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was reported to have been initially violent, but he then settled down into the institute. Every once in a while, though, his mental health deteriorated, and Brian was caught doing alarming things. Whilst inside, he claimed to have gotten a kick from Nisha's death, and it seemed that he misremembered the event. He also threatened nurses with violence when he didn't get his way on several occasions. Eventually, though, Brian managed to get a handle on his outbursts. In time, he masked his psychopathic tendencies so well that his doctors were convinced he was better. In 2001, just over 7 years after the death of Nisha, Brian was transferred to the care of a social worker and psychiatrist. Both of these people, unfortunately, had very little experience with killers like Brian. He was moved to Riverside Hostel in London. This is a minimum security men's facility in northeast London. There, Brian was free to come and go as he pleased, and he did behave himself for the most part, but he was caught smoking illicit substances and tested positive for amphetamines more than once. Things quickly escalated once more when Brian assaulted a 17-year-old girl by blowing raspberries on her stomach. The police were called in, but nothing ever came of the matter. Brian admitted to this crime of his own free will, and he was subsequently transferred to Newham Hospital's open ward for his safety after the girl's family threatened him with violence. In Newham, Brian was once more free to come and go as he pleased. At this point, it had been 11 years since any significant violent incident had happened. He was seen as recovering, as safe, and a poster child for mental health and prison reform. It was during this time that he met a woman who introduced him to Brian Cherry. Everyone that knew Cherry described him as a kind-hearted loner, but someone who would let other people take advantage of him instead of being alone. Nicola Newman was the name of the woman who introduced Cherry to Peter. She was an addict who would show up at Cherry's house every so often to hang out and to take money from him. The depth of Peter and Brian's relationship was only known to the two of them, but it must have been fairly intimate for him to choose Cherry out of everyone that he had encountered. Peter headed over to Brian Cherry's flat in Walthamstow on February the 17th, 2004. He was armed once more with a claw hammer, a screwdriver, and a Stanley knife. He arrived at Cherry's at 6 p.m. He then attacked him with the hammer. He struck him 24 times, but didn't stop there. Peter proceeded to dismember Brian with the knife and the screwdriver that he brought with him. He cut around the arm joints before applying considerable pressure to dislocate the joint and extract it. Peter Brian then removed part of Brian Cherry's brain. He dropped it in a frying pan with some clover butter, and he placed another portion of it in a sieve by the kitchen sink. The fried portion was then consumed. At around 7:15, Nicola Newman let herself into Cherry's flat. As one of his only friends, she had a key to his apartment. She was stunned when she noticed the strong smell of disinfectant coming from deep within the house. It was then that Brian emerged from the living room, bare-chested and sweaty, holding a sharp implement. When Nicola asked him where Brian Cherry was, he asked her to leave. She, however, persisted with her questioning, and it was then that Peter Brian said, "Brian is dead." Naturally, Nicola didn't believe him and walked past him to look deeper into the flat. To her utter horror, she found Brian Cherry unclothed and deceased on the floor. Immediately, Nicola understood just how precarious her situation now was. Slowly and calmly, she exited the apartment and told Peter that she needed to leave. She ran for her life when she was clear from the flat, and then placed a call to the police to report this heinous crime. The police arrived at a scene that they'll go on to discuss in therapy for years to come. They found Peter Brian waiting for them in the hallway. He was stood in the dark with his blood-stained hands, jeans and trainers. In the kitchen, they saw what remained of Brian's feast and the tub of clover that he'd used to fry it in. They noticed that the meat had pieces of bone, skin and hair still attached to it. When they saw what was left of Cherry's head, they immediately put 2 and 2 together. Peter Bryan declared to their utter horror, "I ate his brain with butter. It was really nice." He later added upon his arrest, "I would have done something else if you hadn't come along. I wanted their souls." Considering that Peter Bryan was found covered with red fluids, and with the objects that he used to end Brian Cherry within reach, there was still a surprising amount of investigating to be done. The analysis by the pathologist showed just how sick Peter still was, and how adept he'd been at covering it up for all these years. The severed left leg was partly sawn and partly fractured. At the top of the left, the muscle had been completely divided, and superficial sawing of the bone had commenced. These were the words of the pathologist. They concluded that Brian was most likely interrupted before he could complete the amputation of the leg, and Peter Bryan later admitted as much when he was interviewed. He said, "I used the Stanley knife to cut them off, and some other kitchen knife, but I had to stomp on them to break the bone." The investigators discovered that both Brian's psychiatrist and social workers did not have the experience or background to manage someone as manipulative and dangerous as he was. The social worker lacked any mental health training, and the psychiatrist had Brian as his first patient. The case of Peter Bryan revealed a systemic issue within the justice system. It showed how the system could be manipulated for the benefit of people like Peter. Unfortunately though, the case of Peter Bryan does not end here. After his arrest, he told authorities that he wanted to kill again, and that is exactly what he did. He was sent to Pentonville jail. There he told one member of staff that he wanted to end him, and he told another that he wanted to eat his nose. During his entire stay at that jail, he had to be minded with riot gear. He was later transferred to Broadmoor Maximum Security Hospital in April of 2004. There they could watch and manage him better. However, his minders made the crucial mistake of transferring him to a minimum security risk ward. Again, they thought he'd settled down. Richard Loudwell was a 60-year-old man awaiting trial for the murder of an 82-year-old woman. He had allegedly violated and throttled her. This earned him the universal ire and hatred of everybody at the hospital, and Brian felt the exact same way. On April 25th, 2004 at 6:10 p.m, 2 members of staff heard 2 loud bangs coming from the dining room. They found Mr. Loudwell lying on the floor next to a table. His face was covered in red vital fluids and there were marks on his neck. Somebody had throttled him with the cord from their trousers and had struck him on the head. He died of bronchopneumonia caused by severe brain injuries on June 5th. When Peter was found, he confessed to the murder almost instantly. He said, "I get these urges, you see. I've had them ever since I saw him. He's at the bottom of the food chain, old and haggard. He looked like he'd had his innings. I just waited for my chances to get at him. I wanted to kill and eat him. I didn't have much time. If I did, I'd have tried to cook and eat him." When asked if he thought eating people was normal, he replied, "Of course, it's normal. Cannibalism is normal. It's been there for centuries. If I was on the street, I'd go for someone bigger, for the challenge. I wanted to cook him, but there was no time." On March 15th, 2005, Judge Giles Forrester served Peter Bryan with 2 life sentences after he pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder, but with diminished responsibility. The trial took place at the Old Bailey. Several witnesses were called forward by the prosecution. They wanted to give the jury a more comprehensive understanding of who Peter Bryan actually was. Decorated psychiatrist Dr. Martin Locke had the displeasure to carry out a series of interviews with Brian, and he declared him the most dangerous man I have ever assessed. Brian told the doctor, "You look like a brainy chap, and you're quite slim. I think I could take you." Brian also described his second victim's limb as tasting like chicken. Coroner Peter Bedford described Brian as chillingly manipulative. Judge Forrester had this to say before he gave the sentence. "You killed on these last two occasions because of a thrill and the feeling of power it gave you when you are flesh." Deemed too dangerous, Peter was sedated even during his trial, and he was escorted by several of Broadmoor's largest nurses. He is being held there indefinitely. Even after Lord Chief Justice Phillips overturned the whole life tariff in 2006, turning his sentence to 15 years minimum. Considering the crimes Brian committed and his mental state, it is highly unlikely he will ever be released to the public ever again. The mental health system is even harder to escape than jail.
911, what's your emergency?
My daughter, I woke up this morning and she's not in her bed. She's missing. She's 8 years old.
Has she ever left before?
No, never.
Kirsten Hatfield, a vibrant soul, entered the world in 1989 in Midwest City, Oklahoma. She was affectionately known as Curdle Birdle. Kirsten's youthful spirit radiated with a zest for adventure and the thrill of life's exciting moments. She was a true enthusiast, finding joy in roller coasters, of climbing trees and competitive games of horseshoes. Kirsten's love for life and her family was unmistakable, even at the tender age of 5 when her baby sister Faith was born. She formed a protective and unbreakable bond with Faith, fostering a family connection that promised a life filled with fun, togetherness and security. Kirsten cherished her home as a sanctuary, where she could revel in the warmth of her family's love and the simple joys of everyday life. By the age of 8, she was attending the 2nd grade at Traub Elementary School. There, Kirsten's infectious spirit touched the lives of all those fortunate enough to be around her. Midwest City is situated in central Oklahoma, which is in, if you couldn't guess, the Midwestern region of the United States. One of the city's defining features is the presence of the Tinker Air Force Base. This is one of the largest military installations in the United States. It plays a vital role in the local economy and the community. Another feature of Midwest City is its reputation as a family-friendly community with a strong sense of safety and security. The area offers a range of amenities and services for families. This makes it overall an attractive place to live. The city hosts a variety of community events and gatherings, fostering a sense of togetherness among residents. These events include parades, fairs, and festivals. Overall, Midwest City is a community with a strong family presence and family-oriented values, a place where no one would fathom a vicious crime occurring. On the night of May 13th, 1997, Kirsten's mother Shannon performed her nightly ritual of tucking her beloved daughters into their beds. With Kirsten and Faith settled in, Shannon looked forward to a peaceful night's sleep, a night that could be filled with dreams of the life that they shared. However, the quiet of the night was soon disrupted by a subtle sound, an unsettling disturbance in the otherwise sleeping household. At around 3 a.m., Shannon was awakened from her sleep by a soft whining noise. This was coming from the girl's bedroom. At first, Shannon attributed the sound to Faith. She had, after all, occasionally talked in her sleep. Trusting that her children were safe and sound, Shannon attempted to return to sleep. Yet a feeling of unease lingered, and something didn't sit right. In response, she rose from her bed and made her way to the girl's bedroom. To her surprise, the bedroom door was closed. This was different from the norm. Typically, Kirsten and Faith slept with the door open just a crack, inviting the comforting hum of the house into the room as they slept. Mother Shannon gently pushed the door open and returned to her bed without going inside, not realizing that this seemingly innocent event would mark the beginning of a mystery. one that would haunt her for years to come. When the sun rose over Midwest City the following morning at around 6 a.m., Shannon went into Kirsten's bedroom to wake the girls up. As she stepped into her daughter's room, she made a heart-wrenching discovery. Although Faith was in the room, Kirsten was nowhere to be found. Shannon's immediate response was a surge of panic and distress. Desperation guided her frantic search as she darted back and forth between the neighbouring houses, her voice carrying pleas for help and calls for her missing daughter. She scoured every nearby area that she could, searching for any sign of her dear Kirsten. Eventually, after an agonizing but fruitless search of the surrounding area, Shannon returned to her home. The mother then desperately dialed 911, setting in motion a huge citywide investigation.
911, what's your emergency? My daughter, I woke up this morning and she's not in her bed. She's missing. She's 8 years old.
Has she ever left before?
No, never. My 3-year-old was crying. The door was shut. I just went and opened it. I didn't even look to see she was there. And then I went back to bed.
Investigators from the Midwest City Police Department would soon arrive at the anxiety-ridden home on Jet Drive. Their search for clues began almost immediately. A missing child is one of the most time-sensitive cases that there is. Police officers entered the house and swiftly began searching, looking for any sign of where Kirsten could have gone, and what they found was chilling. The bedroom window, although closed, was unlocked, suggesting that an intruder might have entered or exited through it. Their focus then turned to the windowsill. There they discovered several spots of red fluid. This discovery immediately caused the investigation to intensify. Concerns for Kirsten's safety grew rapidly. The search extended into the backyard, and there a 6-foot-tall wooden fence became the next point of interest. Here, officers found more traces of red liquid, further cementing the fear that Kirsten might have been the subject of harm, perhaps being injured as she was aggressively taken from her bedroom through the window. Investigators were deeply troubled. They realized the gravity of the situation that had occurred in this close-knit community. As the search continued, officers stumbled upon another crucial clue. Kirsten's underwear, tattered, torn, and lying amongst blades of grass in the backyard of the Hatfield home. This discovery, alongside the other evidence, deepened the sense of worry that something sinister had occurred the night before, bringing horror into the Hatfield home. Almost positive an abduction had taken place, law enforcement swung into action without pause. They reached out to local businesses, urging them to hand over any surveillance footage from that night. They lived in hope that they could identify the mysterious abductor and trace their movements. One piece of surveillance footage in particular caught their attention from a nearby convenience store. As they combed through the footage, they watched as a man entered the store. He asked the cashier about Jet Drive, the very same street where Kirsten and her family lived. This was the first lead that they had, but they had no idea where to begin in their search for this man. From the footage, they could glean a basic description, but nothing that could give them a solid direction to go in. Meanwhile, word quickly spread to the community that Kirsten Hatfield was now missing, and that this was an urgent case. Time was of the essence. The urgency of her disappearance gripped everyone surrounding the Hatfields. They immediately clamoured round and began organising a search party. The assistance of the Heidi Search Centre from Texas was sought out to boost their efforts. Missing person flyers which described Kirsten rolled out onto the streets. These flyers described her as a young girl standing at 4 feet tall and weighing 55 pounds. A girl with deep brown eyes that matched her long brown hair. The outfit she was last seen wearing was a big, adult-sized white t-shirt. The flyer was complete with specific markers to look out for. This was such as the fact that she had discoloration on her neck and stuttered when she spoke too fast. The collective efforts of the community, law enforcement and dedicated search teams were all mobilised together in efforts to locate Kirsten. Volunteers combed the area tirelessly. but days continued to pass without any promising leads or developments. This situation had investigators perplexed. Their frustration only increased with each passing day. Captain Cecil Frymere, the lead investigator on the case, had no idea where to go next. The police force didn't have nearly enough leads or evidence to go in on one distinct direction, and new information was drying up. The evidence they had found at the scene was indeed helpful, but they had to patiently wait for the test results to return before they could do anything. The community and Kirsten's family anxiously awaited for a breakthrough, anything that could bring their beloved child back home and well. In the following week, the excitement of new evidence flickered. Some children's clothing was discovered near northeast Oklahoma City. The police force quickly made their way to the location to collect these items, hoping that they could perhaps be a clue or a lead in Kirsten's case. However, upon close examination, it was determined that these garments were not Kirsten's. This stifled the hopes of her mother and investigators, putting them back to square one. As June arrived, a month had passed since Kirsten had vanished from her bedroom. The Heidi Search Center concluded its involvement in the search. However, Kirsten's mother and the rest of the Midwest City community refused to give up hope. They established a command post at Traub Elementary School, and they continued their search efforts in coordination with the Midwest City Police Department. The determined search team scoured every corner of the city, giving every ounce of dedication they had towards the cause. But these extensive searches yielded no evidence or leads, nothing new that could bring them any closer to finding Kirsten. Kirsten's mother Shannon was overwhelmed with gratitude as the community stepped up to help in finding her daughter. She thanked everyone for participating and giving their time in the search for Kirsten, saying that the tragedy that was occurring showed a community spirit that was unwavering in coming together to help. As the community continued to work together, investigators remained steadfast in their quest to identify the man who had inquired about Jet Drive at the convenience store. Described as a tall black man, approximately 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighing around 230 pounds, he was last seen wearing a blue and white striped shirt along with a matching baseball cap. With this description, police struggled to find any defining features or characteristics, nothing obvious that could help them narrow down the search for this man. Without anything else to go on, this lead too would grow cold. Weeks turned into months and Kirsten's absence persisted. Mother Shannon was exhausted and disheartened, but she refused to surrender her hope that her daughter would safely return. The passage of time never wavered her determination to find Kirsten. By July, the ground searches had ceased. It became evident that Kirsten was nowhere within the immediate area. They'd searched in lakes, patches of woods, parks, and even on the Air Force Base. But there was absolutely no further trace of Kirsten. However, officers did not give up on a search for evidence, or the hope that at least one person had information on what could have happened to Kirsten 2 months before. The initial discovery of red fluid on the windowsill and the fence made the case even darker. Upon further testing, it was confirmed that this did not belong to Kirsten. Investigators began to shift their focus away from this evidence as any type of help in their case. They began to wonder where they could turn next. Shannon did her best to remain as honest as possible with officers throughout their investigation. She wanted to be clear regarding her behavior during Kirsten's disappearance. She candidly admitted that she had been a user of illicit substances, insisting that she had never done it around her children and that she had only done it socially. She also acknowledged that her associations with others that used illegal substances could have potentially made her and therefore her daughter a target. Shannon admitted to the fact that she wasn't a perfect mother, saying that if her involvement with users was the reason why Kirsten was gone, then she was indeed guilty. Police had thought all along that Kirsten was abducted by someone close to her or her family in some way. This included relatives and any friends of the family, so therefore it included Shannon's less than upstanding friends. Their rationale was based on the idea that a stranger would likely have encountered difficulty in quietly carrying Kirsten out of the window and then over the fence without causing a commotion. Several people close to the Hatfield family, including other family members, underwent polygraph examinations, and some of them even failed to pass. But these examinations did not yield enough evidence to bring charges against anyone. The lack of any definitive proof of what had occurred, making the investigation almost impossible to solve. As the months turned into years, Kirsten's family grappled with the heart-wrenching absence of their daughter. Their lives were forever altered by the inexplicable void left by Kirsten's disappearance, burning with the knowledge that it would likely never be solved. Time had passed, but the questions surrounding her whereabouts continued to haunt them. Childhood photos of Kirsten were aged with technology. The idea of this was to reflect what she might look like now as a teenager and a young adult. However, no sightings would ever be reported. The community had begun to move on without Kirsten in their lives, and her family eventually did their best to follow.
Lois Grigsby lives 2 doors down from where little Kirsten lived back in 1997.
It brings tears to my eyes, you know, just even knowing that the little girl had come up abducted, you know, out of that house.
Not just heartache, but also fear for her own children.
When she told me that, I literally took the air conditioner out of his window and nailed the window shut.
A few doors down, Jennifer Meeks, new to the street and to motherhood, was shocked to hear her neighborhood's past.
Oh my God, that's very scary. That's very scary because we got a little 9-month-old.
Today, the search continues for the next tip, next sighting, next lead for the little girl who would be 26 today.
She was never found, so it's possible she is still alive. You know, different people have different feelings on that.
In June of 2015, nearly 20 years after Kirsten vanished, a fresh perspective arrived when a new investigator joined the Midwest City Police Department. This diligent investigator, with the knowledge of the latest advancements in DNA technology, decided to review the cold case of Kirsten Hatfield. It became evident that there were critical pieces of evidence that had not been subjected to DNA testing, along with some other evidence that could benefit from re-examination using newer forensic tools. This breakthrough signaled a renewed hope for answers and for justice in Kirsten's case. With the case re-sparked by forensic technology, the new investigators at the police station decided to revisit everyone they had questioned way back in the original case and request a DNA sample from each. One of these men was Anthony Joseph Palmer. He lived just 2 doors down from the Hatfields on Jet Drive. Investigators visited his home that he lived in with his now wife. He married her a short time after Kirsten's abduction. When questioned about his reactions to the case, Palmer's wife revealed that her husband still harbored strong emotions when the case was mentioned, saying that it was especially hard to deal with as she had disappeared so close to their home. When questioned about his involvement in Kirsten's disappearance, Anthony denied any wrongdoing, and he did agree to provide a DNA swab for testing. Everyone they had questioned back in 1997 who had agreed to give a sample was swiftly tested against the DNA found on the windowsill and on the fence of Kirsten's home. The analysis of Anthony Palmer's DNA revealed an astonishing match with the DNA found at the crime scene. The probability of this match was estimated at 1 in 293 sextillion. This made it basically impossible to be anyone else's DNA. This proved that the new technology was exactly what officers needed to catch a break. Palmer's DNA was found to be a match on Kirsten's underwear discovered in the backyard, as well as on her bedroom windowsill. As a result of this compelling evidence that had finally been collected, Tony Palmer was arrested in October of 2015, marking a huge development in the case and a major step towards seeking justice for Kirsten.
Tell you anymore, I drink a lot of water. I had some stomach issues and the doctor says drink water. It really helps with the indigestion real bad. It's just chewing. I thank you for coming down here to talk to us.
Well, you know, as a state employee, you know, it's something we have to do.
Well,
we have to abide by all
Well, we appreciate
law
it.
enforcement and all that.
And here's where we're kind of bad. We're still looking at the Hurston Hatfield thing, and we're going back and we're talking to a lot of people. And I know over the years,
You weren't there the first time they came down, were you?
you know, no, I was with Miller the last time we came to talk to you about the other dealership. You, over 17 years, I know in my life, I've changed a lot. And so we wanted to talk to you about if you can kind of tell me 17 years ago how your life was, how that neighborhood was, what was going on in that neighborhood. I know I've read some of the reports that from the interviews before, and how it appears to me that they call you Uncle Tony around there because you care about the kids. You were feeding some of the kids.
Yeah. Basically, when I lived there, there was a bunch of older people. That was like not a retirement place, but most of the people in that area were old retirees.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like doing stuff all the time. You know, I was always outside, and if somebody's working on their vehicle, got to go be busybody, hey, you know, and help them, or somebody's washing machine was broke down, and the older people, you know, they can't, older people, you know, can't do stuff. And I've always been mechanically inclined, you know, where I could figure stuff out, you know, or help them move this, or, you know, just, I've always been, I don't know about friendly, but neighborly.
Right.
And that being my first home,
right.
You know, I tried to make it where that neighborhood was my home.
Yeah. Well, did you help any of the kids over there?
Well, when
feed them pizza.
Yeah, there's always, that's
my pet. Kool-Aid house?
Well, I don't know about Kool-Aid. That's always been my pet peeve, is I grew up hungry. You know, and there's a lot of kids hungry. Yeah. You know, and I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not where I'd go out of my way, hey, you hungry? But I mean, you see kids, you're over there eating something, and they're just, you know, you see them draw, here, take it. I can't stand that.
You know, that's one of the stories I want to turn my phone off so people will leave me alone. Before we get started here, Tony, let me go ahead and I want to read you your Miranda warning, okay? You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish one. And if you decide to make a statement, you can stop at any time. And do you understand each of those rights I've explained to you? Having those rights in mind, do you wish to talk to us? Yes. Do you mind just initially kind of take us back to 1997 and go back over that, maybe that evening before and into that morning when all of it all kind of started blowing up, and just best you can tell us everything you remember. And take your time. I know we're going back some years.
Yeah, I'm starting to get that old timer stuff. But really the only thing I can really remember is afterwards, you know, when, you know, because it was just a typical day. You know, got off work, went home, had supper, watched TV. Because used to being a landscaper, my yard was my pride. Mm-hmm. Everybody wanted to play in my yard because my yard was nothing but Bermuda. I just had Bermuda grass.
Sure.
But I mean, not that they came over there, but that's what I did. I always worked on my yard.
Mm-hmm. And back then, you said you were working at the Capitol?
Yes.
So, okay. So you were very experienced at keeping the yard.
Oh, yeah. I, well, you know, got chemical license, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember anything about the day or evening before? You said it was just a typical day. You worked all day and then went home. You remember anything unusual about that evening that stands out to you?
No, other than what I told them about, you know, seeing the white truck, you know, in front of the white Chevy truck in front of their yard.
Okay.
You know, like I said, I didn't have anything to do with those people. Didn't know them at all. you know. Okay. It's not like I went, hey, yeah, you got your little girls? No, it wasn't nothing like that. Okay. I was outside working on my yard, you know, either talking to the neighbors or kid would come by, Tony, can you fix my bike? You know, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You know, it wasn't like I'd tell them to come over or anything. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't go to other people's houses unless, you know, I was needed or something like that. But everybody just got, oh, Tony will fix your bike and blah, 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 you know. And I tried to make it feel like, you know, that was kind of a safe place, you know, for, you know. Because I had Tristy at the time. She wasn't there during that time. But I had Tristy there since she was, you know, small. And whenever she was there, you know, the kids would come and play with her. And
now,
you
who
know,
is Tristy?
She was one of my girlfriend's daughters that stayed with me a lot.
Okay. So you had a good bond with Tristy, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Was she
and her mom? So
you never, I'm assuming you probably saw Shannon and Kirsten running around the neighborhood and so forth.
To tell you the truth, until that happened, I think I seen the kid one time. She was playing with Crystal that lived up the street. But I don't remember if it was in that time frame or what. I don't really know. Because like I said, I didn't pay no attention.
Okay. Do you remember ever like giving food to Kirsten or talking to Kirsten?
No.
Was she ever at your house?
No.
Anything like that? Okay.
No.
And do you remember?
I'm actually a leery guy until, you know, people start coming around. You know, I'm not just, oh yeah, I will be your friend. You know, no, not like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. I didn't pay attention to, you know, who all was there or who they were. You know, things like that in my world just fall in place. You know, we accidentally meet. Oh, okay. Yeah, now I know you. You know, then, but no, never.
Do you ever recall helping Kirsten with her bike or anything? You don't remember any interactions with her at all?
No, I know there wasn't any interactions. I didn't know them at all. And like I said, I don't even know how long they'd been living there until that happened.
Okay.
Because I was always, that was back when I was fishing. I'd usually come off of work, I'd load up my poles, go to Draper. And sometimes I'd stay there all night. Mm-hmm. But I'd always have, you know, second jobs, you know, after hour jobs, either landscaping or anything to make a buck.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm pretty sure that Detective Miller talked to you this before, but am I correct that you said you had never been over there mowing for Shannon or working on her property or? Okay. Seems like that come up. Somebody thought you might have been mowing over there or something.
No, he was asking it's about something about a handyman. Is what he was asking me about.
Okay. Well, do you remember ever mowing over there or anything like that?
No.
Okay. While they lived there, do you remember ever being in the yard, the front or backyard for any reason? Okay. How about in the house?
Nope.
Okay. So there was never any time that Shannon asked for your help to fix this or that or mow the yard for me or... Let me bounce back a little bit. We got off a little bit off track. I was kind of having you go back over what you remembered through the night, and I read over the FBI notes that they took when they talked to you. I guess there was some information about you hearing dogs barking.
Yeah, I had a dog in the backyard. His name was Dog. About 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, he went to raising hell. So I just, you know, really, believe it or not, in my neighborhood, we still got skunks and possums and stuff like that, plus other dogs, you know. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why that woke me up, but because I usually didn't wake up, and usually he's out inside anyway. But it woke me up, and he was barking at that back fence, at our back fence. But at the time, as you walk out my back door, I had an old apricot tree. So unless you went out there, you know, you couldn't see. And I just hollered at him because, you know, thinking it was another dog, or because there was always, and traffic, there was human traffic back there. But usually it was other dogs, There was other dogs or cats. There was always animals through there. So I just, you know, I really didn't think nothing about it. I just hollered at him, and he came in, and I went back to bed.
So you actually let him back into the house? Yeah. So you opened, your back door, I'm assuming, and let him in? Did you go investigate? No. Did you look down the alley? No. Anything like that?
No. Because usually in the past, whenever I did, that's what it was, you know, either another dog or people use that alleyway, you know, to get through. Why, I don't know, because I mean, I don't know where you'd be going other than from house to house, but there was always, not always, but there was traffic.
Okay. And speaking of the alleyway, did you have any kind of a gate or anything that went out to it? So you didn't have access to it through your backyard? No. I mean, I think that'd be ideal to be able to go out into the alley and you could back a trailer up, and it seems like everybody had a gate.
Well, the house next door to me didn't have a fence. So whenever I weed eated or, you know, did whatever, because I always weed eated, you know, 2 foot around from my fence, you know, next door, and then that alleyway, which the alleyway was.
Because I read your statement, you said you saw your gate ajar. Which gate was that?
Gate ajar.
Yeah. You didn't have a gate on the back or on the side? Did you have a gate on the side of the house?
Yeah, we got a gate. Well, it's a gate, but no, it wasn't ajar.
Anything else that night after you let dog back in? Did anything else occur that you remember?
No, I went back to bed, being done.
Okay. And then when did you first become aware of Kirsten was missing and all that was going on?
Well, the next day there was all that activity, and I asked the neighbor across the street what was going on. They said they couldn't find Kirsten, and I didn't think nothing about it, you know. I went to work, and then I don't remember if she called me or I called over there or what, and they said they was wanting people back, you know, because they wanted to go to our houses and blah, blah, blah. So clocked out and came back home.
Do you remember what time it was that you clocked out, came back home? Was this morning? Was this afternoon?
It was probably mid-morning, something like that.
Now, who was the friend that you were communicating with?
It was, and I don't know what her name is. Y'all showed me a picture of her.
Okay.
I think y'all showed me a picture of her. Anyway, of her husband, Don.
Is this the Halseys, Tiffany Halsey and Don Halsey?
I guess,
No?
yeah.
I'm not sure if Mr. Halsey is Don or not. Did you have
somebody had called me, said that we were wanted back at our house.
Okay.
So I came home.
Okay. And then what happened?
I just sat there.
Did any of our officers or the FBI or anybody come by?
It was the FBI. Yeah.
Okay.
They came in, took statements, you know, walked through the house, and you know, wanted to go in the backyard, and you know, because I had a shed back there. He wanted to look in the shed. And
okay. So he did look through the house and look through the shed?
Yeah.
You probably don't remember who that was, I'm sure.
No.
Okay. And was he just asking you general questions about Kirsten, and did you know her, have you seen her, that kind of thing, or?
Basically.
Did you write out a statement for him, or was it just a conversation?
I thought he wrote out a statement.
Okay.
But he asked me if he'd come in, he wanted, you know, asked me what I knew, which at the time really wasn't anything. He said they was going through canvassing the neighborhood and, you know, asking everybody, and so, yeah.
17 years ago, Tony, were you experimenting with any drugs?
No.
Never did?
No. I drink beer.
That's it? Just drink?
I drink beer. But as far as drugs, no.
Was Kirsten ever one of the kids that you had seen, or was there any talk in the neighborhood about her being mistreated or abused or in need?
No, because like I said, I had no inkling that they even existed until after that. I didn't know.
You had never seen her? Anything
maybe
like
once or twice, and didn't think nothing about it. You know, just another kid.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. How about just generally, like who were your friends, best you can recall back then?
Basically just people that I worked with.
Okay. Up there at the Capitol?
Right.
No long lost pal from school or anything?
Yeah.
I guess you moved off from New Mexico and left them there, didn't you?
And I'm not the kind that goes to a bar. You know, if I'm going to drink, I drink at home. I mean, I know I've met a lot of people, but.
So you would drink some, but didn't experiment with drugs, didn't do marijuana, anything?
No.
Did they drug test back in them days? at your work?
Well, they always hung that over on us, you know, but we never had got UA.
Okay. So it was kind of the threat.
Yeah. There was some of which they would have.
You ever had any trouble with the law, Tony?
Oh, yeah.
Before?
Years ago, first degree burglary and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. I think I told your partner that.
Really?
Back when I was a dumb kid.
How long ago was that?
I think fixed to turn 18.
Oh, so you were just a boy.
Yeah. And all about it, my girlfriend.
Where was that
It's Walters, Oklahoma.
Oh, okay, up in Cotton County.
Yep.
You
When
were
I got out of
18?
Job Corps, they found me a job there in Walters as a diesel mechanic.
Is that what your training was?
Actually, I was training
At
for
the
auto
job
mechanic, but they found me a job as a diesel mechanic, and the counselor at Job Corps, he made some deal with the government that if the government or the employer would pay half the wages, they would pay, you know, for OJT.
Right. Uh-huh.
So it was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it was. I'm surprised that you didn't stay with that. Those diesel mechanics make some money.
Yeah, but it's hard work.
Or is it? It can be harder than weed eating. All
Yes,
day
they
long.
can too. Some of them parts weigh, heads for one of the Versatiles is probably 200 pounds, and you got a tire about that high, and you got to get it up on that and get it, you know, on the block, and then you're torquing stuff at 240 foot-pounds, you know, laying on your back, and it's hard.
In the last 17 years, Tony, have you changed much? Is this how you were 17 years ago? Just a hard-working man?
Yeah, that's basically it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Changed older-wise, but no.
I'm not the same person I was 17 years ago. I've matured a little bit.
I wish I could say that.
Life changes people, you know. As you get older, you start recognizing things that you could handle differently than what you.
Mm-hmm.
If you had it to do over again, you'd change. You know, I can
Truly
say
that's
that.
the thing. We can't ever change it.
No, you can't change what happened, but sometimes you can make things better. I remember a few years ago, I went to my high school reunion, and I seen a kid that, honestly, I just tormented to death. I made and I was able to find him and
make amends.
I make amends and apologize and tell him that I was immature at the time and ask for his forgiveness. And, you know, I think by the end he actually remembered some of the things I'd done, and we talked about it, and I felt a lot better, and I think he felt better at the end. I know I did when he said he gave me some absolution, some forgiveness. Hey, I know you weren't very mature back then, and, you know.
Well, it's good for your own self-respect, too.
It is to get it out. And I tell you what, the weight, and I don't know why God had put on me a burden of guilt. I don't want to use the word guilt, but I really felt like after I did that, I had a new outlook.
You get to go fishing?
Yeah.
For a week?
Yeah. Don't
I call it vacation.
Because when he's gone, it's all right.
It's my therapy.
It's all right.
Actually, it is therapy. It's very good therapy.
It is. Because I'm like you. I work. I mean, that's all I ever known was to work. But now my wife doesn't understand that working is therapy too, especially.
Well, I've always suffered from depression back when I was a young kid. So, and that always seems like working, I guess, gets your mind off of whatever it is you're thinking about, or, you know, whatever. So that's all I do is work.
It gives you a sense of accomplishment too. That's one thing we really.
Well, especially when your folks tell you that you ain't worth a shit, you'll never amount to hell of beans and blah 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 and blah blah blah. Yeah.
I know.
Showed you, didn't it?
Is that how you grew up in a tough environment like that?
That's a shame. I remember my dad. I wrestled and went to state, and Dad never saw me wrestle. You know, and I asked him about it one day, and because it bothered me for years, and he goes, "Well, I never discouraged you from doing it."
And that hit you.
And he goes, my dad would, because down there on the farm, Pa he was a rough man. You know, he would browbeat those boys. So Dad has progressed to, he's better than his father. Hopefully I'm better than my father was as far as encouraging.
Yeah, but that telling you that he didn't discourage you, you know. Because what for? You ain't gonna be worth a damn. Yeah, blah, 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 don't.
That's wrong.
Been there, done that, you know.
And that affects you.
Yeah.
I mean, that stays with you for life. I'm always on my boy because my grandson's the greatest thing that walks the face of the earth. And I'm always on him, hey, you're too hard on that boy, you're too hard on that boy, you're too hard on him. And so hopefully he's a better father than I am. He is. So, but I was very fortunate to get some things off my chest over the years. And as I get older, my dad has even talked to me about things that he has wished he had redone, you know.
Yeah, I think everybody has. The only thing that really, and that's you're probably getting completely off the deal, but when I left Walters, when I got in trouble with Walters, I was going out with an angel. I mean,
a good woman, huh?
My biggest mistake. Yeah, I fucked up big time.
Did you?
That's the only time I can really say that I fucked up.
Lose your temper.
Well, yeah, that's basically what had happened. You know, he was picking on her, and I had, like a dumb kid, had to go do something about it. You know.
Well, not necessarily a dumb kid. Sometimes men got to do.
Well, now you know there's other ways of doing stuff, but. And of course, I've been drinking.
Right. That's not the best decision-making process. Conducive to great decision-making, believe me. I was telling my partner as we was driving out to your work that I was 16 years old and we'd cut school, and back then that's where we went drinking.
Dirty Bird?
Dirty Bird. And
did you ever lose any jewelry after?
No, but I put my Mustang in the ditch out there. And I shouldn't have. And I tried to
I was telling them I've probably found 200 gold rings since I've been out there.
Wow. That's awesome. Do they wash up on the bank with current and waves, or do you think they get lost there?
Well, they get lost and then they get covered up, you know, because of the wave action. And then the wave action uncovers it again. And then you have to be at the right time at the right place.
Yeah.
So every time, you know, after the wind's blowing, you know, I check my shoreline. Because I hate glass in the water.
Yeah.
That's another one of my pet peeves.
Yeah.
Stepping on that.
Yeah.
Well, the first month I was there, I was out at Turkey Pass picking up trash, and people were in from out of state. Kid goes in the water, what's the first thing he does? Steps on a damn rusty hook. Mm-hmm. And after that, I thought, no. So every day, I'd go out there and I'd have a couple 5-gallon buckets, and I'd fill them suckers up. I figured, you know, I'd do that enough. You know, I'd get it all, but you don't. You'd be surprised. You get out there and you have it spotless. Next day, next swim, like nothing ever, you know, you never did that, nothing.
Hey, to get back to what we're here about, I mean, you've been living there all these years since Kirsten went missing. I'm curious about your thoughts on what happened, who might be involved, that kind of thing.
I don't know, to tell you the truth. Like I said, I didn't know him. But the one thing that's always bothered me, that she left, the mom. Mm-hmm. She went to Jones, I guess, with her dad or something like that. You could have got me off out of my house. I mean, I know, what if she comes back, or, you know, what if somebody makes a call, or, you know, something like that. There was no way I'd left that house. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that bothers me.
Yeah. So you felt like she shouldn't have left, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever at any point over these years or back when it occurred have any knowledge of what happened or know who was involved?
No.
Were you in any way involved?
No.
So you're not responsible for Kirsten's disappearance?
No.
Didn't play any part in that?
No. Like I said, didn't know him. Didn't have, like I said, I just barely, you know, might have seen her once, twice, playing with the kids, but other than that, I didn't know him.
What, just out of curiosity, what do you think the motivation was of whoever did this? I mean, Why would this have happened?
Well, then I couldn't have told you, but after, over the years, you know, and hearing the rumors and this and that and the other, it always boils down to drugs. You know, I heard that she was on meth and cocaine, and Dawn's wife was the same thing. You know, she said, yeah, she'd been over there, you know, that night, and they got lit up. So apparently she did get lit up because, you know, if somebody did come in, I mean, wouldn't you have heard it? I don't know.
So
but I know
does that mean that she left Kirsten home alone, you think? Or
I don't know. But I'm sure she did. But I don't know. Like I said, I didn't know. And I really didn't pay much attention to Don and his wife. It's just...
where did they live? I'm pretty sure
kind of
that's
catty
all
corner
these-
for me.
Straight across the street?
Not straight, just catty corner. A little white house, catty corner for me.
Okay.
And they had 2 or 3 kids, and I'd come home one day, I was rewarding myself. I did something, and I was stopped at Kentucky Fried Chicken, got me a family pack of chicken. I was going to go down. And the kids, whenever I walked up, they was just, the way they were eyeballing me, you know, like they hadn't ate nothing. I mean, they were really, if you'd have seen them, you'd have thought that too, because I mean, they were skinny. So I got me a piece of chicken, I was chewing on it, and they just, you want some chicken? Yeah. Is that all right if they can have this? Yeah. Because no, it's not, no, it's something everybody do. When you got kids that are, you know.
Yeah.
And I know he was a welder by trade, but he, you know, talking to him a time or two, you know, things weren't going right for him, and, you know, he didn't have money and all that. So, yeah, I didn't have a problem, you know.
Who are we talking about? Was a welder? Don? Okay. From looking back over the history, I understood that Shannon's brother, I guess, stayed with you for a short time.
Aaron. Yeah, Aaron.
Tell us about that. How did that happen? And
he was in the neighborhood, you know, he's apparently looking for, you know, his niece.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm out there one day, and he stops and he talks, you know anything, and blah, 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 you know, and we just got to talking, and, you know, he's living in a damn, you know, under a bridge, and dude, you know, I found out already that night that he'd been locked up, you know, so he wasn't a suspect in my books. So, yeah, I opened my house to, you know, if you ain't got no, because I did that for anybody, you know. It's sick to say, but that's the kind of guy I am. So he needed a place to stay. There's a couch, you know, you can trash here for a couple days and, you know, try to do what you got to do to, you know, figure out what happened to your niece. Because, I mean, to me, that's, like y'all, that's serious.
Sure, absolutely.
That's a serious
How
deal.
long after Kirsten went missing did this happen? Was it like the same week? Was it
probably in the same week.
in the same week?
Yeah.
And then
I can't verify that because, like I said, that's been a while.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, it was probably about in the same week.
How long did Aaron stay there with you?
Just a couple of days, and then, you know, he'd go off, and then he'd come back, and then I wound up having to just tell him he couldn't come back because he was on meth too. At the time, didn't know it.
And I say too because you've heard that Shannon was using drugs too.
I mean, I don't know for a fact, but that's what I heard.
And I'll just say this: if you ever partied with them, if you knew they were doing drugs or witnessed it, just tell us that.
No, no.
We're not.
No, I don't. No. Like I said, and y'all know, you got people that do drugs, and you got people that drink, and you don't do drink, and you don't, you know, I drink.
Yeah.
But no, I never partied with them. And I never partied with Don and his wife.
Okay. Now, did you know Aaron at all before?
No.
So you'd never met him, never talked to him before either? Did he ever confide in you anything about the case or anything about
Just
Shannon?
he couldn't clear his sister.
We talked about, had you ever been in the backyard? Had you ever been in the house? All those things. And you said you hadn't.
Not while they were there, no.
Okay. Well, I don't believe you. Tony, I don't think you're telling the whole truth, okay? Your DNA is in the backyard the morning that she was discovered missing, okay? And on her window, and on the panties she'd been wearing the night before that were recovered in the backyard.
No. No, not me, because no. I find it far-fetched, but no. Because I don't know, I didn't know him.
And maybe you didn't know him, Tony, but we need
And I didn't have no business over there at all.
That may be also. What we need to talk about is what you were doing in that backyard that night and what happened. We need to get to the truth of
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Were you there trying to help Kirsten?
No. Like I said, I didn't know anything about them people at all. Nothing. Nothing. Never met them. Never said hi, bye, nothing.
Well, here's our problem with that, is how did your DNA get there then?
Don't know.
I mean, is this something that's gone on, Tony, that, is this one of those things from 17 years ago that a split-second decision has haunted you for 17 years?
I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Were you there to help her?
No. Like I said, I have nothing to do with them people. Nothing. I didn't know them at all.
Okay, so how did your DNA
I
get
have no idea.
there?
I have no idea.
Tony, your blood is on her window. Your blood is on Kirsten's panties.
I don't see how that can happen.
Well, it happens when you're injured in some way, and your blood gets transferred to her window and those panties.
Yeah, here's
and it
what
gets
I
left
think
behind.
happened. I think you were there to help.
No. I wasn't there, period.
So how did your blood get there?
I have no idea.
Tony, you were there. This is scientific evidence. It's not a debate. It's not anything that can be argued.
And here's the point where I really feel you're a good guy. I mean, you've worked 29 years at a hard job. You came up rough, like I did. Came up poor.
Yeah, but that's beside the point. I had nothing to do with any of this.
But here's the thing. I don't think that was your intention. You're going to have to explain this.
If you were there, how I do it.
If you were there, if you were there because you heard her yelling for help from your backyard, and you go over there to see because you knew that her mother was a meth head and that she was probably at home alone, and you went over there to help,
No.
and you went to the backyard to avoid a conflict with the mother, and you was just going to take care of this little girl because just like you, growing up, you didn't want her being treated that way. That's how understandable things become.
You know, I could understand that, but I don't understand how you're getting my DNA.
Maybe, well, exactly. How was your blood there?
I have no idea.
Well,
I wasn't there at all.
We weren't there either. All we have is this, the evidence that was collected. I didn't collect it. It was collected 17 years ago, Tony. But it's there. And we have to deal with this. And you're saying you were never there.
No.
There's no reason it should be there.
No.
It's not helping your cause. What's going to help your cause is to explain to us how it's there.
I
because the
don't have a clue.
Because the fact it's there is the gorilla in the room. Now, there is a reasonable explanation as to why you were there, and you were there to help Kirsten.
No.
You were there you had a relationship with Shannon.
No. Never knew her.
You were there as a peeping Tom or something of this nature.
No.
Then those are explainable.
Yeah, I understand that, but no. Never there.
Never there.
Never there.
Can't give us any reason why your blood would be there.
No.
Tony, the worst thing you can do for yourself right now in this position is lie and not be truthful.
I'm being truthful, dude. I don't know how, I can't explain why y'all are finding this.
Well, your blood is in that backyard the morning that she's discovered missing, okay? This is your chance, Tony.
I understand that,
to explain what happened. Maybe you didn't mean for whatever happened to happen.
There.
You were there.
You were there, Was
There's
you
no
in a
doubt about
depression? Was that a period when you were going through a depression and drinking and getting depressed, and you don't remember until later what actually occurred?
I don't even think I was drinking that night. To tell you the truth, I might have been, but I don't think so. And I was in bed. And
So
I'm
this
pretty
isn't
sure
the
I
deal-
don't sleepwalk.
This isn't a deal where you got drunk the night before and actually went through with some urges you had.
No.
Whether you're attracted to little girls
No.
or whatever your
I've
thing
never
might
been
be.
attracted to little girls or little boys.
Well, once again, how is your blood there?
I don't know.
Do you not believe me when I tell you that we have your DNA?
No, I don't.
You don't believe me? Okay. And I can show you the.
Oh, I'm sure you
paperwork
could
from
if
FBI.
that's what that, but I don't know how that could have happened.
Well, there's
I
more,
wasn't there.
There's more to this story, Tony, and that's what we're hoping to get from you today. And this is your opportunity to be truthful and to take responsibility for whatever happened.
Yeah, if I was responsible, that'd be different.
Okay. Well, with that said, were you there and somebody else was there and actually took her and maybe you left your DNA
not
behind?
There. I'm not into little girls, and I'm not a window peeper.
Okay. Well, is there some other explanation for why you were in that backyard that night?
I wasn't in that backyard. I don't know how my blood could have been there or what. I know I went to bed. I know when the dog woke me up, I didn't go out my back door. I let dog in, and I went back to bed.
Well, Tony, I don't know how to impress upon you any more than we've got the physical evidence there. And we have to deal with that, Tony. We really do. And we have to get to a point where we can explain that.
I understand that.
Well, help me do that.
I wish I could. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Okay.
I don't sleepwalk.
Tony, I think that you've been living with this a long time. And I think
Living with what?
with what happened. And I think that it's one of those things, Tony, where you're scared, but I think there's some verses that says, at some point everything is known. And I truly believe that. And one of these days that you're going to have to come to realize that. And I think that your best bet is simply tell the truth.
I've been telling the truth.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, what you're telling me doesn't align with any of the physical evidence that we have. And unless there's a huge conspiracy to the FBI and the OSBI and our officers from 17 years ago to frame you, we have to explain this. And I really think you need to talk about it, because I think that's the best thing for you to do is simply tell us the truth. I think you're going to feel better about it. You're going to have a weight lifted off your shoulders.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, you got somebody's blood, but not mine. I was not there.
Okay.
Not that night, not the night before, not the night after.
Did someone talk you into doing something, going with them?
No, I wouldn't do that.
So how do we explain your blood?
I have no idea.
Well, the blood's going to have to be explained, Tony. It's going to have to be. Yeah, I mean,
And I'm trying to go in my head how
that we're going to
how anything, but whenever she was living there, I didn't go there. I was there when William was there. But, and even then, I don't see how I'd cut myself on a window.
Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't there, bro.
I don't know either.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you that the physical evidence is going to have to be explained.
No disrespect, I get the impression maybe you don't believe me when I told you what I told you. So I want to just bring you the copy directly from OSBI, and we've highlighted it here for you, okay? I just want you to understand that this isn't a bluff, Tony. You see those odds? Those odds, I can just tell you from my years of experience, I've never seen at that level, which means this is your DNA. Okay, this is your blood, Tony. That's Kirsten's panties that her mom identified that she had on that night. And that's where your blood was found, as well as on her windowsill. So this isn't just and just so you'll know, we also located some blood on the fence picket, and it's still out for testing. But I suspect that there's a good chance that'll come back to you.
I can't explain it.
And that's what I want to give you an opportunity to do, is explain it, because it's scientific evidence. We know for a fact it's your blood. And of course, Tony, I don't have to tell you that when these panties are identified as Kirsten's, and Mom says, yeah, she was wearing those the night before, and the next morning at dawn, your blood is found in them at the back fence of the property. I mean, if you're in my position as the detective, what does that tell you?
Don't look good for me.
No. It doesn't. And I just want to plead with you to be honest.
I want to be honest.
I want
and
you to
I'm
be
doing
honest.
honest.
No.
I don't.
Tony, I think this has gone on for so many years and has been unsolved, as you well know, for a long, long time. And I'm sure you've told people countless times, I had nothing to do with it, I don't know anything about it, et cetera, et cetera. But this isn't the time to keep saying the same old routine, because this isn't going away. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, this is scientific evidence, Tony. That's your DNA. That's your cells from your body. Tell me what happened. How did you get injured?
I'm trying to figure it out myself. What all this is about?
I mean, you were in some way injured for your blood to be on her window and for your blood to be in her panties. What I want to know from you, was there some kind of a dispute between you and Kirsten?
I had no dealings with those people. Didn't know nothing about them.
I believe
at
that.
all.
I believe that. But I also believe that this is your DNA on her windowsill and your DNA on her panties in the backyard. I don't doubt that you didn't know them. That doesn't take this away. This isn't going anywhere. And we've got to get to the truth of the matter. I mean, for you to sit here and say, I've never been in that backyard and I wasn't there, it's a lie, Tony. That's not the truth.
Yeah.
It's not the truth. And I got to believe, if I can speak frankly, you seem like a good guy. And I know if I'd made a mistake like that, and we all make mistakes, we're all sinners, but I got to believe this has been bugging you for your entire life since it happened. Right. So you're telling me what happened that morning or that night hadn't been bothering you all these years?
That's not me.
Was that the alcohol, or were you experimenting with something else?
I don't do drugs, and I don't know. I'm still trying to fathom in my mind what blood, my blood.
Yeah.
I was nowhere around there, didn't know them people, didn't have no dealings with them people, didn't care about them people.
Tony, this is your
I understand,
opportunity.
okay.
You can sit here and say that same crap over and over. You and I both know that's not the truth.
No, it's the truth will have to come out. I don't understand this.
The truth is what needs to come out.
Yeah.
And you're the only person that can do that. You're the only person that can bring Kirsten back and let her family have a proper burial for her. You're the person that can help do that. You made a mistake, Tony. Okay, you made a huge mistake. Do what's right now. Take responsibility for what happened and help us get Kirsten back.
Can't help you. Don't know. I don't understand.
You said that's not me, and when somebody says that to me, what it says is I wasn't in my right mind. I was under the influence.
Well, in the influence, like I said, if I had a beer, I might have had two. I went to bed. I always go to bed. I'm a 10 o'clock bedtime guy. The only reasons here lately I haven't been going to sleep is because I have to have a treatment. And I wake up every 2.5 hours, 3 hours, take treatment, go back to sleep. I have nothing bothering me other than breathing problems.
So your conscience hasn't been bothering you for all these years?
No.
Let me ask you this. Your wife told us that every year on Kirsten's anniversary that you're upset about it, that you go through a phase of being depressed and upset about it.
And the reason that is, it's on the news, and yeah, how do you feel about it? Well, yeah, I'm going to be upset. I mean, it's a missing child. Duh.
If you want to carry it to your grave and not do what's right, that's on you. But you need to think about what you're doing, because right now, these decisions you're making...
How's my damn blood or me, because I was not there. And I know in that night I was in my same mind.
We need to figure this out.
Yeah, you do.
But you're my key. You're the only one that can help me, Tony. I want you to help me.
If I could, I would, because it's making me look real bad.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not going to browbeat you. I'm not going to be mean or anything, but I need the truth. I need
the truth, too.
I need to find her. I need to find Kirsten. Help me find her.
I can't help you.
Was there somebody else involved?
I can't help you on that either. No, I didn't help anybody or help myself take this girl.
Then how do you explain the blood?
I don't. Well, I can't.
Let me see your arm. You have a scar on your arm. What happened there?
I was picking up a toilet bowl and it cracked.
When was that?
Last year.
Hey, I'm gonna be rude. I'm Major David Huff. I'm pretty much these guys' boss. The guys have been out there kind of talking to me about the interview. What do you say? Let's take a break for just a minute. I don't want you getting upset at us. We really are trying to get to the truth, but I don't want you getting upset with us. Take a drink of water. We'll just relax for a minute, okay?
I can't explain this. And the only thing that I'm thinking right now is, yeah, I'm being set up because we want to close this case. That's the only thing that's coming in my head right now. Seriously.
Okay. Well, I understand what you're saying. I'm going to be honest with you. When this first stuff, the stuff first came out, the DNA, I want you to understand how it works, because not everybody does this, so it wouldn't be uncommon for you not to know. the normal person that doesn't do police work doesn't know. The DNA that we got off of these panties, that was taken all the way back when it happened, okay? And it was put into a container where we could keep it indefinitely, all right? It's been there ever since the FBI took it. When they were helping us, it was there, okay? We had what was called an unknown DNA sample. We knew that it was human DNA, we can tell that.
That's true.
Oh, yeah, right. We knew that it was human DNA, okay? And we knew it was human DNA from a male. We can know that. What we don't know, when we got it back then, we didn't know the name attached to it. We didn't know whose DNA that was, okay? When the FBI and Detective Miller went out and got those swabs, okay, they got them from a bunch of people, all right? You being one of them. Then it was tested against a sample that was taken off the windowsill and off of the panties, which, by the way, I don't know if they told you this or not, but also has Kirsten's DNA on it. Because little kids, they do a little pee-pee in their pants and skid marks. So her DNA's on it, your DNA's on it, and it's also on the windowsill. That was all done way back when this all happened. It's just now that the DNA results have come back. And I don't know if they told you this. You seem like an intelligent man. So to help you comprehend when we're talking about when we say we know this to be a fact, the number sextillion, what this is saying, if you take a 1 and you put 21 zeros behind it,
Yeah,
it's yours. Anybody in the world, any scientist is going to say that that is your blood. Now, obviously, when we have a case like this, we're not going to, Mr. Palmer, we're not going to lay out everything that we know and everything we have. That's just not the way it works. It'd be counterproductive. We're not going to do it. There's more than this, but we want to try to get you to digest one thing at a time. Now, having said that, do we know all the circumstances surrounding what happened that night? We don't. Only God, the person who did it, and Kirsten probably know that. But I'm going to tell you this. We do know that Kirsten was wearing those that night. We do know that your blood's on there and her DNA's on there. And that is just an absolute fact.
Right. Yeah, I understand that.
And I tell you, just listening and talking to you, 17, 18 years now has passed. I'm going on my 25th year here. I worked every case you could probably imagine. So is Detective Miller, like he was telling you. We're not brilliant men by any stretch of the imagination, but when it comes to this stuff, we're pretty darn smart. And this is what it boils down to. This much time can pass, and if something horrible happens in your life that you don't want to remember, you can put it in a little box and put it out here and try to keep it away from you. But it happens. I've had to put horrible things that have happened in my life and put it in a little box out here and just hope that it goes away and that pray that one day it doesn't come out. Because I've seen some terrible things.
I can imagine.
And here's what I think, and what I think may not matter to you, but it's from the heart. This is what I think. I think that you're not an evil person. I don't think you're an evil person. I've heard about your work history. I know all that stuff. I know you're a dependable person, a hardworking man. I think on this one night, this one time, for whatever reason, some demon inside you, you made a mistake.
We need your help.
You have another one? I do. I smoke 3 packs a day. Unfortunately for me. If I could help you, I would help you. Well, I don't like sitting in this situation.
I don't like
This don't look good for me at all.
No. And I've done research on, you know, what happened when you was in Walters and stuff like that, and I've listened to part of the interview, you know, here this morning, and is there a chance that maybe you blacked out and did it? That you went over and did something? You said something about you don't think you sleepwalk.
No. I'm just going through scenarios.
Well, what it comes down to is this. You know, we've had a lot of people in this room and interviewed a lot of people about stuff similar to this, unfortunately. And there's 2 kinds of people we deal with. There's the people that when we present the evidence that we got and they know they've been found out, they stand up and take some type of responsibility and move on, or they deny it. And to me, that's the folks that are really evil. And I just didn't get the feeling that was you. But I guess I could be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time.
And I'm still sitting here thinking, April's Fool, y'all come up with April Fool. That's...
No, well, not something this serious.
No, there's no April Fool.
Where do you think, if someone was to, the person that did do this, where would they take her and dump her at? Or if they would?
Couldn't tell you. I mean, I watch all the cop shows and stuff like that, or what I do watch, and there's no telling.
So you bring up cop shows, so I'm sure you...
My wife likes cop shows.
Yeah, you've watched a lot of
CFI
stuff like that, yeah. So, you know, and most of the classes and all the research and stuff I've done with, you know, missing children, where they're usually located at, they're located, you know, where the suspect lives 2 doors down, 3 doors down, or in the same neighborhood. You know, so, I mean, you've hit the profile, you know, your past history shows that, you know, but...
That's another strike against me.
No, but like I said, people change, Tony. People change. You talk about your home life, how you grew up. I grew up with a single mom that raised 9 kids by herself. And I'm about the only one out of my family that's graduated school that has a successful job.
Oh,
you know, people tell me you can't do that. You're a piece of crap.
Yeah, and I showed them that no,
right.
It's not about anything like that. I was not sexually molested or abused. I was hated, but I found good in this. You know, he taught me some shit, and that's helped me, you know, go through my life. I know some stuff. I know carpentry, I know mechanics, you know. Yeah. I cuss him to this day because he hated me. Yeah. But
jack of all trades.
That didn't turn me into a monster.
Right.
Because I was hated.
Yeah, and I don't think you're a monster. I think this is just one time something happened and it went a little too far and something had to, you know, an accident.
Actually, I'm in shock is what I am. Like I said, I am still thinking y'all going to say, yeah, well, but this is just a joke, or not a joke, but trying to get me to say something or...
I'm not here to lie. I'm not lying to you about anything. Like I told you from the get-go, you know, my job was to investigate this case and to go out, and I guarantee you, there were probably 30, 40 people that I went out and I got swabs from, just like you did on that day.
in shock. I don't know what to say.
Well, Tony, you're the last person to touch her. You're the last person to touch her. That's her paintings. You're the absolute last person that touched Kirsten. That with other things that we have and that we know and that we've learned, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. This guy especially has been pushing to allow him to be able to talk to you and try to make some sense about it and give you an opportunity to tell the truth. I was kind of against it, to be honest with you, because you don't get that kind of scientific evidence every day. That is absolutely the most astronomical thing that you could imagine. It's about like every grain of sand on the whole planet Earth, or the odds that it's not you that were the last person that touched her panties. That was the last person that went through that window. The odds they're incomprehensible. So is that the way it's going to be, Tony? Is it going to be a deal where till the day you die, you're going to
proclaim my innocence? Yeah.
Everything that we were going to do here today and everything that you were going to tell us is going to go into a report. It could either be a report saying that he manned up and had some remorse, or it can be that it's that evil person that we were afraid of. And that's up to you. That ball is totally in your court. But it's going to read one way or another. And that's up to you. Because it goes from us to the district attorney and then to the court. So it can read how you want. But giving you this opportunity, that was this gentleman's idea. And I gave him that opportunity. And I'll be able to go home and sleep tight tonight knowing that I gave you that shot. And if you don't want to take that shot, then that's fine. I can't force you to, Tony. All we want is the truth, and all we want is to finally be able to let a mother bury her child. That's what we want. Properly. We want her to be able to
I understand. I know you already think I'm guilty, but I know I'm not. So I don't know what else to tell you.
Well, Tony,
I'm still in shock.
I know you're in shock.
It doesn't compute.
Because it's been 17 years and you thought it was over. That's why you're in shock.
No, what I'm in shock about is you got my blood?
Yeah.
How's that possible?
I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that it is absolute. It is absolute. There is no maybe, there's a possibility. It is absolutely 100%.
Hey, do you want to take a break, give him some time to think about what we talked about?
Do you have any more? Do you have any more to smoke?
Not yet.
Go ahead and smoke for a minute. Let us go out here and talk. We'll get your head together. We'll give you one more opportunity to think about what I just said. Okay?
ask you again. Where's she at?
I can't help you.
Okay, I want you to understand too, and you probably already know this, you're not leaving this room, Jack.
I understand that.
And you understand that it's probably going to be quite a while that you're going to spend in jail. Just because we don't have a body doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to charge you with anything.
I understand.
I've got
that.
enough evidence against you. But, go ahead.
Tony, there's an arrest warrant in that deal signed by a judge, and it's for murder. And judges don't sign that unless there's probable cause. And to be fair to you, okay, to be fair to you, you're not going anywhere. You're being charged with murder. And here's the deal I want you to remember. Right now, we're interviewing every one of your family members. You can probably hear it in the next room. We're already at your house. We will have backhoes, ground penetrating sonar, cadaver dogs, the whole 9 yards.
No. We was laughing about that yesterday.
What's so funny about that?
If y'all were to ever go in our backyard, I got dogs and cats and pets everywhere in that backyard. I don't know what the hell we was laughing about that. We was watching something on TV.
Like where you bury them?
Or animal show.
Well,
so we're not going to find, and this is your opportunity because, I mean.
You ain't going to find Kirsten Hatfield in our backyard.
Or on your property anywhere.
No.
Where do I find her?
I don't know.
Did you black out and you took her somewhere and dumped her?
I didn't get her.
Who did?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to leave it with, you're that person that has no remorse, and that's the way the report's going to read.
Yeah.
Because what I'm seeing from you is you could care less if we ever find her, and
yeah, I did.
You could care less.
Just put a cigarette out for me. Turn around for me. Put your hands on your back. Relax. You're under arrest for murder, kidnapped Kirsten Hatfield.
Following the arrest and as court documents began to be put together, it was suggested that Kirsten may have been targeted by Palmer for predatory reasons, and investigators believed that Palmer had been motivated to remain in the same home. This was to potentially conceal evidence of the crime or the location of Kirsten's body. In an effort to bring closure to the long-standing mystery, officers decided to employ sonar equipment to reopen the search for Kirsten. Now they focused on Palmer's residence.
I've done over 50 cases. I think we've recovered in the neighborhood of a little over 40 people.
And that's just in the past 8 years. Kent Beeler is helping Midwest City Police identify what's buried on this property on Jet Drive. That's him crawling out from underneath the house.
In this particular case, we are looking for an 8-year-old child, and of course that makes for a very, very small person. And so the more time that goes by, the more difficult it is.
The OU professor says even with a ground-penetrating radar and a backhoe, it's a huge undertaking.
We're in an urban environment in a backyard. We have utility lines running all over the place. People dig all kinds of holes in their backyard for all kinds of reasons.
Having looked at the soil and vegetation on the property, he says even after 18 years, remains can still be located if they're here.
Unfortunately, this search yet again yielded no results. But due to the DNA evidence, Palmer was still formally charged with Kirsten's homicide. As he awaited trial in prison, Palmer made an attempt on his own life. However, the injuries incurred were not life-threatening. He was subsequently put on watch so that Kirsten's family could finally gain some type of relief from their suffering. After years of searching for justice, they would not let it slip through their fingers. The trial of Tony Palmer for the homicide of Kirsten Hatfield took place in October of 2017. There, Palmer entered a plea of not guilty in his involvement with Kirsten's disappearance. During the trial, one of Kirsten's school friends testified. They revealed that Palmer had made her and Kirsten uncomfortable. They said this was due to his persistent staring as they played outside. Prosecutors also raised concerns about potential links between Palmer and other assaults.
3 women told the judge they believe Anthony Palma sexually assaulted them. Now, this happened years ago, so for many of them, talking about it today was very emotional. Anthony, what do you have to say about what these women claim? Anthony Palma said nothing. Are these women telling the truth about the claims the women made against him? Prosecutors want to show that he has a history of sexual-related crimes and breaking into homes. He's charged with murder. Prosecutors claim the only reason he targeted Kirsten Hatfield was to sexually assault her.
When I was told what he had done, how he had went through the little girl's bedroom window, that just brought everything back, everything that he had done to me.
This witness told the judge she only came forward with her story after hearing how similar her incident was with what happened to Hatfield. Another told the judge Palma broke into her house and brutally attacked her in her bedroom while her children were in the house.
In one disturbing incident in the late 1970s, Palmer entered his girlfriend's home through a bedroom window and, in the middle of the night, he preyed on his girlfriend's then 8-year-old sister. In a separate case that occurred the year following Kirsten's abduction, Palmer gave his 17-year-old roommate illicit substances without her knowledge. The victim recalled being found without clothing in a bathtub, with Palmer pouring water on her and preying on her with an implement. These stories mounted evidence against Palmer, building a picture of the likelihood to commit a crime of this nature against Kirsten, speaking to his character as a predator. The most damning evidence against Palmer was the DNA evidence presented in court. This left no doubt about his involvement in Kirsten's abduction and homicide. The jury wasted little time and deliberated for just over an hour before reaching a guilty verdict.
Emotions were high this afternoon as that guilty verdict was read. Kirsten Hatfield's family has waited for more than 20 years for some answers in this case. As for Anthony Palma, he was silent as he was led back to jail, and I asked him questions.
Any thoughts on the verdict? Can you say where her body is?
As you can see, Palma looked straight ahead, and when that verdict was read, he showed no emotion and did not look at the family. The jury heard testimony from witnesses throughout the week, including 3 women who say they were assaulted by Palma in the 1980s and 90s, but the biggest evidence against him, his DNA was found on a pair of Kirsten Hatfield's panties. Those panties were found in the backyard of the family's home the day Kirsten disappeared on May 14th, 1997. Kirsten's remains have never been found, but prosecutor Scott Rowland is hopeful they will find them someday.
We'll continue looking for her until we find her remains, or until this man's heart softens enough so that he sees fit to at least let us recover Kirsten's remains. So far, we haven't seen any kind of remorse or any kind of movement in that regard.
Kirsten's mother, Shannon, and her sister, Faith, also broke down in tears when that verdict was read, and they told me this afternoon this is a moment they weren't sure would ever come.
We are just, I can't explain it, but we are just floored by this miracle, and we are so thankful.
Palma's next court date is November 27th.
Outside the courtroom, Kirsten's mother expressed her relief and gratitude for the outcome. She was overwhelmed by the verdict. She saw it as a miracle that restored her faith in the criminal justice system. Shannon thanked all the men and women involved in bringing integrity to a case that even after all these years had always held a glimmer of hope. Following the trial, Anthony Palmer was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, his time in prison was cut short.
We are following today the man convicted of abducting and killing 8-year-old Kirsten Hatfield 22 years ago is dead. Over the weekend, DOC confirmed Anthony Palma was killed at the state pen in McAllister Friday.
News 9's Chris Gilmore has reaction from Kirsten's family and law enforcement who investigated the case. Chris.
Good morning. Anthony Palma was serving a life sentence without parole when he was killed in his cell on Friday, allegedly by one of his cellmates at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. Now, this cellmate of his, a man serving multiple life sentences for a murder conviction of his own. The news of Palma's death at a maximum security facility has left some asking questions.
In January of 2019, less than 2 years into his life sentence, Palmer was found lifeless in his prison cell at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. He had been throttled and beaten by his cellmate, Raymond Pallado. He was serving a sentence for a triple homicide that he had committed in 2010. Prison officials believed that Palmer was targeted by his cellmate due to the nature of his crime. This resulted in him being attacked with an extension cord. It was common for predators to receive extremely negative, violent treatment from other inmates in prisons, and this was no different. Tragically, with his passing, the location of Kirsten's body, which he had concealed for years, was taken to the grave with him. Midwest City detectives had been planning to visit him in prison later that year. They had hopes that he would reveal the location of Kirsten Hatfield's body. The police chief expressed that Palmer might have had a change of heart, a change which would lead him to finally disclose what he had done with Kirsten's body. However, that hope was never realized. The police chief said that they didn't encourage what had happened in prison, but that some people would say that Palmer received justice for his crimes. The police force's primary concern was the fact that they had not found closure in Kirsten's case, and the chances of locating her body grew extremely slim without Palmer. Police Chief Klebs discussed his curiosity about the events surrounding Kirsten's disappearance, thinking that Palmer may have confided in someone about what he had done. He encouraged the public to come forward with any information they might have, anything at all regarding any conversations they may have had with Tony Palmer about Kirsten. Mother Shannon also shared her perspective on Anthony Palmer's arrest and the subsequent events. Shannon emphasized that even though Anthony Palmer had taken her daughter's life, she had forgiven him long before discovering that he was responsible for Kirsten's passing.
I will never give up on her.
The news coming to Shannon in a phone call from family. Her daughter's killer found dead inside of his cell.
I didn't anticipate having so many different emotions. I mean, forgiveness and God and a prayer life and fighting for Anthony Palmer in prayer.
She was hoping time in prison would soften Palmer into confessing where he hid Kirsten's body, so she wrote him letters.
Until Anthony Palmer asked that I stop writing him. Very respectful, but he asked that I just stop writing him.
Was there any part of you that felt this is revenge?
No. I'm not celebrating Anthony Palmer's death. I know that for certain.
She expressed that God's love and forgiveness were essential in helping them navigate Palmer's arrest, the trial, and whatever comes next. She clarified that she wasn't celebrating Palmer's passing, and she extended her prayers to his family, acknowledging that he also had loved ones who cared for him. Kirsten's family is determined to continue looking for her, hoping that investigators search a lake where Anthony Palmer used to work, and that they may uncover evidence related to their daughter's disappearance. However, with Palmer's passing, they too are concerned that the investigation into their daughter's case may lose momentum. Kirsten's mother worries that Palmer's passing might lead to complacency, potentially affecting the efforts to investigate him for any other involvement in missing persons cases. She feels that Kirsten's value is not receiving the attention it deserves, and she seeks prayers, insights, connections, and opportunities to shed light on the darkness that continues to surround her daughter's case. While she maintains faith that God will bring Kirsten's case to a conclusion, she continues to wonder how that will happen without properly saying goodbye. Do you think the punishment fits the crime here? What do you think could be done to avoid something like this happening again in the future? Please do let me know down in the comments. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.